Book 1. From my grandfather Verus, I've imbibed gentleness and composure, steering clear of anger and impatience. His legacy instilled in me a sense of dignity and honorable conduct. My mother taught me piety and generosity, urging me to refrain not only from evil deeds but also from evil intentions. She encouraged moderation in diet and warned against the pitfalls of excessive wealth. My great-grandfather emphasized the importance of education, advocating for both formal schooling and seeking out competent mentors. He taught me not to shy away from investing in my own growth, even if it meant significant expenses. My guardian guided me away from blind allegiance to partisan factions or the allure of favoritism in the arena. He emphasized the value of hard work and self-reliance, cautioning against unnecessary desires and involvement in too many pursuits. He taught me the virtue of self-sufficiency and the importance of dismissing baseless rumors. Diognetus urged me to steer clear of frivolous pursuits and not to be swayed by fantastical claims or charlatans peddling miracles. He discouraged me from indulging in frivolous pastimes and taught me to value freedom of speech while nurturing a philosophical mindset. He introduced me to esteemed thinkers and cultivated in me a love for philosophical discourse and contemplation. Rusticus played a pivotal role in awakening my desire for self-improvement, steering me away from the vain ambitions of conventional sophists and the allure of physical prowess. He redirected my focus from ornate rhetoric and poetry to more substantive pursuits. His influence led me to eschew ostentation and cultivate simplicity in my writing and interactions. He taught me the importance of forgiveness and reconciliation, as well as the virtue of diligent study and critical thinking. I owe him gratitude for introducing me to the teachings of Epictetus, which have profoundly shaped my philosophical outlook. Apollonius exemplified true freedom and unwavering resolve, prioritizing right and reason above all else. He showed me the possibility of maintaining consistency in character, even amidst the most trying circumstances like severe pain or profound loss. He demonstrated resilience in the face of adversity and remained unperturbed by the shortcomings of his students. His humility in teaching the principles of Stoic philosophy left a lasting impression, teaching me to receive kindness without indebting myself excessively and to express gratitude without appearing indifferent. Sextus embodied gentleness and the ethos of a family guided by genuine affection. His commitment to living in harmony with nature was marked by sincerity rather than affectation. He taught me to observe the diverse dispositions of friends without judgment, and to engage with differing opinions with patience and respect. His ability to adapt to any social setting without compromising integrity was admirable. Sextus's methodical approach to life's challenges showcased his calm demeanor and compassionate nature, earning him respect without seeking attention. Alexander the grammarian taught me to uphold linguistic standards without reproaching others for their mistakes. Instead, I learned to subtly correct errors by providing the correct form without drawing attention to the fault directly, fostering a culture of mutual improvement with grace and civility. Fronto illuminated the dangers of envy, deceit, and hypocrisy inherent in the rule of tyrannical leaders, revealing the shortcomings of those born into privilege who lack genuine empathy. Inspired by Alexander the Platonic, I learned the importance of managing my time wisely and fulfilling obligations to friends and acquaintances promptly, avoiding the common excuse of being too busy. Catullus taught me to value constructive criticism, striving to reconcile with friends even when they unjustly reproach me. I embraced the practice of speaking sincerely and positively about my mentors, following the examples set by Domitius and Athenodotus. Above all, I learned from Catullus the profound love and devotion a parent should have for their children. My brother Severus taught me the importance of kindness and compassion towards those in my household and family. Through him, I discovered the wisdom of Thracia, Helvidius, Cato, Dio, and Brutus, sparking my interest in a society governed by justice and equality. He instilled in me the desire for a realm where the welfare of the people reigns supreme. Severus inspired me to maintain unwavering dedication to philosophy amidst life's distractions, to practice generosity without reservation, and to foster optimism and trust in the loyalty of friends. His straightforwardness in reproving others and his transparent nature made it easy for his friends to understand his intentions. Claudius Maximus taught me the importance of self-reliance and inner strength, encouraging me to maintain composure and courage in the face of adversity. He emphasized the virtues of gentleness, moderation, and seriousness in all endeavors, urging me to approach tasks with diligence and without complaint. His words carried weight because of his unwavering sincerity and good intentions. He possessed a calm demeanor, never surprised or rushed, never overtaken by despair or excessive joy. He harbored no ill will, always ready to do good, forgive, and speak the truth. His integrity was evident, and no one felt undervalued in his presence. Moreover, he had a charming and amiable disposition. My father epitomized meekness and unwavering resolve, steadfast in his convictions after careful consideration. He shunned vanity and carried himself with humility, regardless of societal notions of honor and dignity. Diligent and attentive, he listened to all voices contributing to the common good, impartially rendering to each their due. His discernment knew when to apply rigor or leniency, avoiding the pitfalls of unbridled passion or excessive indulgence. He eschewed inappropriate relationships, demonstrating modesty in his interactions as an ordinary individual, not demanding undue attention from friends or imposing obligations during his travels. Even when faced with interruptions, he remained consistent in his character. In consultations, he meticulously examined matters and patiently considered alternative viewpoints, refusing to be swayed by hasty judgments. His concern for his friends was genuine, either neglecting them nor becoming excessively attached. Contentment characterized his demeanor, exuding cheerfulness and foresight without ostentation. He was impervious to flattery and meticulously managed public affairs and finances, facing criticism with equanimity. Unpretentious and sober-minded, he respected tradition without seeking recognition for his adherence to customs. His constancy and resilience were evident, enduring headaches without faltering in his duties. He kept few secrets, primarily concerning matters of public interest, demonstrating discretion and moderation in public entertainments and constructions. He treated all individuals with fairness, guided solely by principles of equity rather than the pursuit of personal glory. He maintained a disciplined lifestyle, avoiding indulgence in unnecessary pleasures and material concerns. His interactions were marked by kindness, humility, and a measured approach, never displaying undue haste or fervor. His ability to find contentment in simplicity and maintain moderation in both adversity and prosperity reflected the strength of his soul, as evidenced by his fortitude during Maximus's illness. From the gods, I've received an abundance of blessings, noble lineage, loving family members, dedicated mentors, faithful servants, and supportive relatives. Despite my inclinations toward hastiness and recklessness, the gods have intervened to prevent any transgressions against them. I am grateful for being raised by my father instead of his concubine, allowing me to retain the innocence of youth. I resisted the temptation to mature prematurely, thanks to my father's guidance in humility and simplicity. Living under his governance taught me that a prince can lead without extravagant displays of power, recognizing the value of humility and dedication to public service. My brother's example inspired self-reflection and brought joy to my life. I am blessed with healthy children, free from physical deformities. Though I lacked prowess in rhetoric and poetry, I prioritized the advancement of those who nurtured me. My relationships with mentors like Apollonius, Rusticus, and Maximus enriched my understanding of a life in harmony with nature. Through introspection, I've realized missed opportunities to heed divine guidance and live authentically. My body has endured, enabling me to fulfill my duties. I've resisted temptation and remained faithful in my relationships. My mother's presence in my later years brought comfort and joy. I've never hesitated to assist those in need, and resources have always been available. My wife is a source of love and support, and capable educators have nurtured my children. Divine intervention has guided me through illness and philosophical pursuits. Without the aid of the gods and fortune, none of these blessings would have been possible. In the land of the Quadi at Granua, remember this: each day, you will encounter people of various dispositions, a curious idler, an ungrateful individual, a slanderer, a deceitful person, or one filled with envy. These traits stem from ignorance of true virtue and vice. But I, understanding that only what is truly good is desirable and what is truly bad is contemptible, recognize that these transgressors are my kin, not by blood, but by sharing the same reason and divine essence. How can I be harmed by them, when they lack the power to tarnish what is truly honorable? Why harbor anger or ill will towards those so closely related to me by nature? We are meant to collaborate, like the various parts of the body. Opposing one another goes against our natural purpose. Reflect on what you truly are: flesh, life, and reason, the guiding force within. Set aside distractions, for your flesh is but a temporary vessel, blood, bones, and skin. Your life is fleeting, like a passing breeze. Focus instead on your rational faculty. Though aging, guard it from enslavement to base desires and fears. Do not let it be tossed about by irrational impulses, but maintain its dignity. Acknowledge that whatever comes directly from the gods is under their divine providence. Even events attributed to fortune are interconnected with nature, or the overall order governed by divine providence. Everything serves the greater good and is necessary for the preservation of the whole, of which you are a part. Just as the elements undergo perpetual change, so do all compounded things. Let these truths guide you, and abandon your excessive thirst for knowledge. Be content, grateful to the gods, and at peace with your fate. Book 2. Reflect on how long you've delayed these matters and how often you've neglected the opportunities presented by fate. It's time to grasp the true nature of the world, of which you're a part, and of the divine force from which you emanate. Understand that your time is limited, and if you don't use it to calm the turmoil within you, it will slip away, never to return. Make it your earnest endeavor, as a citizen and a human being, to carry out every task with sincerity, affection, freedom, and justice. Let go of unnecessary worries and distractions. Approach each action as if it were your last, free from vanity, irrational impulses, hypocrisy, and self-centeredness. Remember, the requirements for a virtuous and divine life are few. The gods demand only that you adhere to them. Act now, soul, while you can still disregard and humble yourself. Soon, the time for self-respect will be gone. Your happiness depends on you, yet your life is fleeting. Don't base your happiness on the opinions of others. Why let external events distract you? Take time to learn and grow instead of aimlessly wandering. Beware of another form of aimlessness, the busyness of those who lack a clear purpose in life. Not paying attention to the state of your own soul is a sure path to unhappiness. Hardly anyone is unhappy when they focus on their own soul's state. Those who neglect reason and discretion in guiding their souls are bound to be unhappy. Always keep these things in mind. Understand the nature of the universe and your place within it. Consider the relationship between different aspects of existence and how they fit into the grand scheme. Remember that nothing can prevent you from acting and speaking in accordance with your own nature, which is a part of the greater whole. Theophrastus makes a wise comparison between sins, acknowledging that while all wrongdoing is regrettable, sins driven by lust are more reprehensible than those fueled by anger. When someone acts out of anger, they often do so in a moment of emotional turmoil, turning away from reason. However, when someone sins out of lust, they demonstrate a lack of self-control and maturity, yielding to pleasure without restraint. Therefore, it is more condemnable to sin with pleasure than with anger, as the former reflects a conscious choice to prioritize personal gratification over moral integrity. Whatever you desire, whatever plans you make, approach them as if you could depart from this life at any moment. Regarding death, if there are gods, leaving human society is not a dreadful thing. Rest assured, the gods will not harm you. And if there are no gods or they do not concern themselves with the world, why would anyone want to live in a godless and unguided universe? But there are certainly gods, and they care for the world. Truly evil things, such as vice and wickedness, are within a person's control to avoid if they so choose. If there were other truly bad and evil things, the gods would have taken care of those too. So why should anything that does not affect a person's character for better or worse be considered detrimental to their life? We cannot believe that the universe, whether due to ignorance or lack of ability, would allow good and bad things to happen to everyone indiscriminately. Life and death, honor and dishonor, work and pleasure, wealth and poverty, they all happen to both good and bad people equally, but they are neither inherently good nor bad, either shameful nor praiseworthy on their own. Reflect on how swiftly all things disintegrate and dissolve, bodies and substances returning to the matter of the world, and memories fading into the collective age and time of humanity. Consider the nature of all worldly, tangible things, especially those that entice with pleasure, or intimidate with dread, or dazzle with their outward allure, how insignificant and contemptible, how transient and corruptible, how devoid of true essence and vitality they truly are. It's the mark of a discerning person to contemplate the true essence of those from whom honor and acclaim emanate solely from their opinions and words. Also, consider what it means to die, and if one were to contemplate death by itself, setting aside all the associations that typically accompany it, it would be perceived as simply a natural process. To fear any natural process is childish. Death isn't just a natural occurrence, it serves the purpose of nature. Ponder how humanity is connected to the divine and how the soul reacts when it's said to be dispersed. There's nothing more pitiable than a soul that exhausts itself searching the depths of the earth, probing into the thoughts of others, yet failing to realize that focusing on tending to the spirit within is sufficient. True service to oneself involves maintaining purity from violent passions, negative emotions, recklessness, and vanity, as well as avoiding discontent towards both gods and humans. Whatever originates from the gods deserves reverence for its inherent worth, and whatever comes from humans, as our kin, should be met with love, sometimes with compassion, recognizing their ignorance of what is truly good and bad. Whether you live for 3,000 years or just a few more, remember this: a person can only forfeit the life they are currently living. Each moment lived is a fraction of that life, and whether it's long or short, it all leads to the same outcome. While there might be some inequality in the past, the present moment is equal for all. When we die, it's only the present moment that we truly part with, a mere blink of time. The past and future cannot be lost, for they are not truly ours to lose. Keep in mind these two things. Firstly, that the world operates in an eternal cycle, with the same things recurring endlessly, regardless of the span of years a person may witness them. Secondly, realize that the life lost by the longest or shortest liver is the same in length and duration because it's only the present moment that can be relinquished, as it's the only moment they possess. Remember that everything is a matter of opinion and perspective. The teachings imparted to Monimus the Cynic are as clear and useful as they are straightforward. If we accept the truth and seriousness in them alongside the pleasant and agreeable aspects, we can derive valuable insights. A person's soul does itself a disservice when, to the extent of its own capability, it becomes a sore spot, a blemish on the world, by feeling aggrieved and displeased with anything that occurs in the world. This attitude directly contradicts the nature of the universe, of which all individual natures are a part. Secondly, when the soul either harbors aversion toward others or is driven by conflicting desires or emotions that harm them, such as the souls of those who are angry. Thirdly, when it is overcome by pleasure or pain. Fourthly, when it deceives, covertly and falsely saying or doing things. Fifthly, when it pursues or endeavors without a clear purpose, acting rashly without due consideration of its consequences in relation to the common goal. Even the smallest actions should not be undertaken without reference to the end goal, and the end goal of rational beings is to follow and obey the reason, the law of this great and ancient commonwealth. The span of a person's life is like a mere dot, its substance ever flowing, its meaning obscure, and the entire composition of the body tending toward decay. The soul is restless, fortune is uncertain, and fame is doubtful. In short, everything pertaining to the body is as fleeting as a stream, and everything pertaining to the soul is as transient as a dream, or as insubstantial as smoke. Our life is a constant struggle, a mere journey. Fame after death is no different from oblivion. What, then, will endure and follow? Only one thing: philosophy. And philosophy consists in preserving the spirit within us from all insults and injuries, above all pains and pleasures, never acting rashly, deceitfully, or hypocritically, relying entirely on oneself and one's own actions, embracing everything that happens as coming from the same source from which we ourselves came, and above all, facing death with all humility and serene cheerfulness, as nothing more than the dissolution of the elements of which every creature is composed. And if the elements themselves suffer nothing from their perpetual transformation from one form to another, why should anyone fear the dissolution and alteration that is so common to all? Is this not according to nature? But nothing that is according to nature can be evil. Written while I was at Carnuntum. Book 3. A person must not only recognize the daily diminishment and wasting away of their life, but also acknowledge that even if they live long, they cannot be certain whether their mental faculties will remain sharp and capable for prudent decision-making in matters of business or contemplation. This mental acuity is crucial for attaining true knowledge of both divine and human affairs. For if they begin to lose their mental faculties, their physical functions such as respiration, nutrition, imagination, and appetite may remain intact. But their ability to use their mind effectively, to discern right from wrong, to rectify errors or sudden perceptions, and even to consider whether they should continue living, may diminish. It is necessary, therefore, to hasten not only because death approaches with each passing day, but also because the intellectual capacity by which one understands the true nature of things and directs their actions accordingly deteriorates daily, and may fail before death. Furthermore, one must recognize that whatever naturally occurs in the realm of nature possesses its own inherent beauty and delightfulness. For instance, when a large loaf of bread is baked, some parts may crack and form an uneven crust, deviating from the intended uniformity, yet these irregularities add to its appeal and stimulate the appetite. Similarly, figs are considered ripest when they begin to shrivel and wrinkle, while ripe olives near the point of decay exhibit a unique beauty. The drooping of grapes, the furrowed brow of a lion, or the froth of a wild boar may seem unattractive in isolation, but when observed with a deep understanding, they reveal a natural charm and delight. With a discerning eye, one can appreciate the genuine snarl of a wild beast as much as the meticulously crafted imitation by skilled artisans. They can also recognize the graceful maturity of old age, whether in a person or in nature, appreciating the inherent beauty and allure in all things with a pure and restrained perspective. Such insights may seem unbelievable to many, but they are accessible only to those who are intimately acquainted with nature and its intricacies. Even Hippocrates, who cured many illnesses, eventually fell ill and died. The Chaldeans and astrologers, who predicted the deaths of others, were themselves later overtaken by fate. Despite their conquests and victories, Alexander, Pompey, and Julius Caesar all met their end. Heraclitus, who wrote extensively about the end of the world, died in a state of decay. Democritus was killed by lice, while Socrates fell victim to the malice of wicked men. So what does this tell us? Whether you embark on a journey or stay put, gods are present everywhere. If life and consciousness cease, then so too will the experience of pain and pleasure, freeing you from the burdens of this mortal existence. This physical form, made of mere earth and blood, is a humble abode for the spirit, which is far superior in essence. Don't waste your precious time dwelling on the actions and thoughts of others unless it serves a common good, or hinders you from better pursuits. Avoid idle and irrelevant thoughts, especially those fueled by curiosity or malice. Train your mind to focus on matters that align with sincerity and peace, rejecting contention, envy, and suspicion. Be open and unashamed about your thoughts, ensuring they reflect your commitment to righteousness and inner harmony. Cultivate a deep connection with your inner self, treating it like a sacred temple, unperturbed by pleasure or pain, immune to self-inflicted wrongs, and resilient against external harm. Strive to be like a skilled wrestler contending for the highest prize, mastering your own passions and embracing whatever fate brings your way. Focus only on what's within your control, managing it with goodness and accepting what unfolds with equanimity. Remember that all rational beings are interconnected, and caring for others is inherent to human nature. Seek praise only from those who live in accordance with nature, disregarding the opinions of those who don't. Act in accordance with your own will, in harmony with the community, after careful consideration, and without reluctance. Avoid the temptation to embellish your thoughts with overly elaborate language. Neither talk excessively nor take on more than you can handle. Let the divine within you guide your actions, showing that you are a mature, sociable individual, rooted in Roman values, and living life as if always ready to depart swiftly. Be a person of integrity who doesn't require oaths or witnesses to vouch for their words or deeds. Be cheerful and self-reliant, not dependent on others for help or tranquility. Be like someone who stands tall on their own, rather than someone who needs constant correction. If you discover anything in life better than righteousness, truth, temperance, and fortitude, pursue it wholeheartedly. But if you find nothing superior to maintaining a contented mind and accepting providence with equanimity, then prioritize these virtues above all else. Resist the allure of fleeting pleasures and external rewards, and instead, choose what is truly beneficial for your rational self. Don't let worldly temptations distract you from pursuing what is genuinely good and beneficial for your inner well-being. Never consider anything as beneficial if it requires you to compromise your integrity or betray your values. If it leads you to hate, suspect, curse, deceive, or desire that which must be hidden behind walls or veils. Instead, prioritize your rational mind and the virtues it embodies. Those who prioritize their inner wisdom and the virtues it inspires will never lament, despair, or fear. They will find contentment whether alone or in company, and above all, they will live without craving or dread. Whether their life is long or short, they remain indifferent, ready to depart at any moment with dignity and grace. Their sole concern is to engage their mind in pursuits befitting a rational and social being. In a mind that is truly disciplined and purified, there is no trace of impurity, servility, affectation, or hidden agenda. Such a life cannot be caught off guard by death, any more than an actor can be caught unfinished before the play reaches its end. Honor and respect your faculty of judgment, ensuring that your opinions align with nature and the essence of rationality. The purpose of rationality is to act deliberately, to cultivate goodwill towards others, and to submit willingly to the order of the universe. Focus on these principles, remembering that life exists only in the present moment, a fleeting instant. Everything beyond this moment is either past or uncertain. The time we have on earth is brief, our influence limited, and even the greatest fame is but a fleeting legacy, preserved by those who themselves will soon pass away. Alongside these constant reminders, add another: make it a habit to mentally describe and dissect every object that enters your mind. Contemplate it thoroughly, stripping away all external layers to reveal its true nature. Divide it into its constituent parts, and then name each part and the whole by their true appellations. True magnanimity is born from the ability to methodically examine and understand all facets of life, discerning their true purpose and their place in the grand scheme of the universe. Consider how much value it holds in the context of the universe, and how much it matters to humanity, citizens of the supreme city of which all other cities are mere dwellings. Analyze the object of your attention. What is it composed of? How long will it last? And which virtue is most relevant in this situation? Meekness, fortitude, truth, faith, sincerity, contentment, or another? Recognize the origin of each aspect. Some come from God, others from the interconnectedness of events, and still others from individuals, influenced by their ignorance. Respond accordingly, treating each with kindness and justice. Treat indifferent matters according to your judgment of their importance. Focus on the present moment, adhering to the principles of right and reason with diligence, solidity, and humility. Do not allow distractions to cloud your mind. Instead, strive to keep your spirit pure and untainted. Live in accordance with heroic truth, content with what you do and say, regardless of external circumstances. In doing so, you will find true happiness, and no one will be able to hinder you. Just as physicians always have their tools ready for sudden treatments, keep your principles at hand for understanding both divine and human matters. Remember the inherent connection between the divine and the human in everything you do, no matter how small. Success in worldly endeavors requires acknowledgement of God, and likewise, divine matters cannot be approached without consideration of the human condition. Don't deceive yourself into thinking you'll live long enough to read all your moral commentaries or the works of famous figures from ancient Rome and Greece that you've saved for your old age. Accept the reality of your mortality and abandon vain hopes. Take action now if you truly care for yourself as you should. Many fail to grasp the various meanings of simple actions like stealing, sowing, buying, resting, and discerning unseen tasks. These actions engage the body, the soul, and the intellect. Just as the senses pertain to the body and desires to the soul, principles belong to the intellect. The capacity for imagination is shared by humans and animals alike. Succumbing to base desires, however, is characteristic of wild beasts and monstrous individuals like Phalaris and Nero. Acting in accordance with reason, even in mundane matters, is a trait shared by those who deny the existence of gods and would betray their country for personal gain. Therefore, a good person is one who embraces their fate without troubling their inner spirit with vain fantasies, remaining true to justice and honesty. Even if others doubt their sincerity or contentment, such a person remains unperturbed, steadfast on the path towards their inevitable end, prepared to depart willingly and fittingly embracing their fate. Book 4. The inner essence of a person, when in its natural state, adapts easily to worldly circumstances, shifting its focus to achievable goals when initial plans fail. It never fully commits to just one objective but pursues each with flexibility, accepting unexpected outcomes as new opportunities. Like a fire that grows stronger by consuming obstacles, it transforms setbacks into fuel for progress. Avoid hasty and arbitrary actions, instead, adhere to precise and meticulous guidelines in all endeavors. People often seek solace in secluded places like country villages, the seaside, or mountains, and you yourself may long for such places. But understand that this longing arises from a simple mindset. Whenever you wish, you can retreat into yourself and find peace and freedom from all distractions. There's no better retreat than your own soul, especially when you've cultivated inner resources that can offer you instant ease and tranquility. By tranquility, I mean a calm and orderly state, free from chaos and turmoil. So afford yourself this retreat regularly to refresh and renew. Keep these principles concise and foundational so that they can purify your soul thoroughly and leave you content with whatever you return to after this brief withdrawal. What's there to be upset about? Are you bothered by the wickedness of others? Remember that all rational beings are interconnected, and it's part of justice to tolerate them. Reflect on the transient nature of life and how even former enemies are now reduced to ashes. Regarding the ups and downs of life, can you be displeased when you remember the randomness of fate or the interconnectedness of the world? As for your body, what is there to fear when you realize that your mind is indifferent to the experiences of life, whether smooth or harsh? Concerned about your reputation? Recall how fleeting praise is and the insignificance of human judgments in the vastness of eternity. Practice this kind of self-retreat often, focusing on your inner self and maintaining tranquility amidst life's changes. Remember, this world is in constant flux, and life itself is but a fleeting opinion. If the ability to understand and reason is universal among humans, then the faculty of reason, which defines us as rational beings, is also universal. And if reason is universal, then the principles guiding our actions, what to do and what not to do, are also universal. From there, laws emerge. And if there are laws, then we are all citizens of a shared community. And if we are fellow citizens, then we are all stakeholders in a common society. And if that's the case, then the world resembles a city, the only community to which all humanity can be considered members. It's from this shared society that we derive our understanding, reason, and laws, because from where else would they come? Just as the earthly elements in me come from the common earth, and the watery elements from other sources, and even my breath and life have their origins, as well as the dry and fiery aspects of my being, for everything comes from something, and nothing can come from nothing, so too does my understanding have a common origin. Birth and death are natural phenomena governed by the wisdom of nature, a blending of elements that return to the same elements. These are not events of shame but part of a series of inevitable occurrences that rational beings are subject to, consistent with the natural and inherent constitution of humanity. Certain events must inevitably follow from certain causes. To wish otherwise is as futile as wanting a fig tree to thrive without sap or moisture. In summary, remember this: both you and others will soon be gone, and after a little while longer, not even your names or memories will endure. Take away personal opinion, and no one will feel wronged. If no one feels wronged, then the concept of wrongdoing ceases to exist. Anything that doesn't harm a person, either internally or externally, cannot harm their life. It was necessary in the natural order for it to be this way, and thus it is unavoidable. Everything that occurs in the world happens justly. If you pay close attention, you'll see this to be true, not just in a sequence of cause and effect, but also in terms of fairness and equitable distribution based on the true value of each thing. So, continue to observe this as you've started, and whatever you do, ensure that it's something a genuinely good person would do. Keep this in mind with every action. Don't entertain the notions that someone who wrongs you might have or want you to have. Instead, examine the matter itself and discern the truth of it. Always be prepared to follow these two rules. First, only do what reason, stemming from your noble and highest self, suggests for the good of humanity. And second, if someone present can correct you or change your mistaken beliefs, be ready to change your mind, not for personal pleasure or gain, but for the sake of justice, the promotion of public good, or some other valid reason. Do you possess reason? I do. Then why do you not utilize it? If your reason fulfills its role, what more could you possibly need? Thus far, you've existed as an individual entity. Soon, you'll merge back into the collective substance of the Creator, from whom you originated. Like many grains of incense placed on the same altar, each one burning out in its own time, you too will return to the source. Within a short span, perhaps within 10 days, you may be revered as a deity by those who, if you return to reason and honor it, would otherwise regard you no differently than a mere animal or ape. Don't delude yourself into thinking you have countless years ahead of you. Death is looming. While you're still alive, strive to be virtuous. How much time and freedom do we gain when we refrain from indulging in curiosity about our neighbor's words, deeds, or endeavors, and instead focus solely on our own actions, ensuring they are just and righteous? To quote Agathos, "Do not dwell on the faults of others, but stay steadfast on the path without distraction." Those who crave posthumous fame fail to realize that those who remember them will eventually die, as will those who come after them, until eventually all memory, which has been sustained by successive generations of admirers who soon pass away, will be extinguished. But even if those who remember you and your memory were immortal, what significance does it hold for you? Not just after your death, but even while you're alive, what value does praise have? Except for a hidden and strategic consideration known as Omicron Kappa Omicron Nu Omicron Nu Alpha Nu, or dispensation. However, let's put aside any arguments based on the idea that whatever is commendable in you is a gift of nature, as it's irrelevant to our current discussion. Whether something is beautiful and admirable, regardless of the context, it possesses those qualities inherently and for its own sake, not because of praise. Therefore, praise neither enhances nor diminishes its intrinsic value. This applies even to things commonly considered beautiful or good, whether for their substance or craftsmanship. Truly good things require nothing beyond justice, truth, kindness, or modesty. None of these become better or worse because of praise or criticism. Does an emerald lose its value if it's not praised? Or gold, ivory, or purple? Even commonplace items like a knife, a flower, or a tree retain their inherent worth regardless of praise or lack thereof. Even if one refuses to believe in the existence of souls after death, how can the air possibly accommodate them for eternity? Similarly, how does the earth manage to contain the bodies of the deceased from the beginning of time? Just as the decomposition of dead bodies allows space for new ones, souls, after death, are either transformed, transferred, or integrated back into the original rational substance from which all others emanate. This process allows souls previously coupled with bodies to transition to a solitary existence. Furthermore, considering the multitude of animals consumed by humans and other creatures, their bodies are transformed into blood, air, and fire, allowing the earth to accommodate them. The key to understanding lies in distinguishing between passive material and active formal elements. Stay focused on what is just, resisting distractions, and striving to grasp the true essence of every passing thought or desire. Whatever benefits the world benefits me, Nothing that benefits you, world, is irrelevant or outdated to me. I consider everything your seasons produce as auspicious and fruitful. Nature, you are the source of all things, the sustainer of all existence, and the ultimate destination. If one could speak lovingly of Athens as the beautiful city of sea crops, why not say the same of the world as the divine city of God? People often advise, don't get involved in too many things if you want to live happily. Indeed, there's nothing better than focusing on necessary actions, those dictated by reason for a creature meant for society. This not only fosters cheerfulness through goodness but also by reducing the burden of unnecessary tasks. Since many of our words and deeds are unnecessary, cutting them out creates leisure and reduces trouble. So, before acting, remind yourself, could this action be unnecessary? It's not just actions to cut off but also unnecessary thoughts and imaginations to prevent unnecessary consequences. Consider living like a good person, one content with whatever life throws their way, satisfied with their present actions and future prospects. You've experienced another kind of life. Now, try this one. Don't let others' offenses trouble you. They harm themselves more than anyone. And whatever happens to you, accept it. It's part of life's common fluctuations. In short, life is short, so live it wisely and justly. Take time for recreation, but in moderation. This world is either an orderly and beautiful piece, or even in its mixture and confusion, it retains a certain comeliness. Could beauty exist within you if the entire world were disorderly? Everything in it, with its distinct properties, is still interconnected through natural sympathy. Whether someone has a dark, effeminate, harsh, or childish disposition, why be surprised by their actions if they're ignorant of the world? Let them remain strangers, marveling at what occurs. A true exile flees from reason, the basis of society. Blind is the one who can't perceive with understanding. Poor is the one who lacks self-sufficiency. A rebel against nature is discontent with life's events. By irrational actions, one separates from the common rationality of all beings. Some practice philosophy without even a coat or a book. One might say, I lack food and clothing, but I stay true to reason. Another might lack the teachings of philosophy but still remain rational. Whatever profession or skill you've acquired, embrace it wholeheartedly and find solace in it. Entrust yourself and all that's yours to the gods, and treat your fellow humans neither as tyrants nor as slaves. Consider the times of Vespasian or Trajan, people marrying, raising children, falling ill, dying, fighting, feasting, trading, farming, flattering, boasting, suspecting, scheming, wishing for death, complaining about their lot, courting, hoarding, seeking power. Yet those ages have passed. Reflect on how many individuals, fervently pursuing worldly goals, soon vanished into obscurity. Recall those you've seen consumed by trivial pursuits, neglecting their true calling. Let this remind you to prioritize wisely in every endeavor, avoiding unnecessary distractions. Words once common are now obscure, and famous names of the past fade into obscurity. Camillus, Piso, Valesius, Leonidas, soon followed by Scipio, Cato, Augustus, Adrianus, Antoninus Pius, all will be forgotten, mere legends of another era. Even those hailed as wonders in their time are swiftly forgotten upon their passing. What endures? All is fleeting. Our sole concern should be to cultivate just minds and wills, to perform charitable deeds, to speak truthfully, to avoid error in understanding, and to accept all that happens as natural and inevitable. Surrender yourself willingly to the flow of fate. Reflect constantly on the transience of all things. Everything, including memories and minds, exists through change and transformation. The universe delights in altering what is, creating new iterations. Thus, what exists now is merely the seed of what will be. If you think only the earth or womb receives seeds, you are mistaken. Though you face mortality, you have not yet achieved perfect simplicity. Troubles and disturbances still plague you. You remain susceptible to fear and suspicion, not yet fully embracing all humanity, or embodying the wisdom of justice in your actions. Take note of what concerns the rational part of people, especially those deemed wise by the world. See what they avoid and fear, and what they pursue eagerly. Your evil cannot exist in another person's mind or in the natural state of your body, which is just the dwelling of your soul. So, where can it reside but in that part of you capable of conceiving misery? Refuse to entertain such thoughts, and all will be well. Even if your body suffers, let the part of you that judges remain at peace. Understand that whatever befalls both the wicked and the virtuous is neither inherently good nor evil. Contemplate the world as one living entity with a single soul. Consider how everything is interconnected and operates under the guidance of one overarching consciousness. Reflect on the intricate web of cause and effect that shapes all existence. Apart from your divine essence, as Epictetus aptly put it, you are merely a soul burdened with a mortal body. Change itself does no harm, just as gaining existence through change brings no real benefit. The flow of time is like a swift river, carrying events along. As soon as one thing appears and disappears, another takes its place, and then that too fades away. Everything that occurs in the world follows the natural order, like flowers blooming in spring or fruit ripening in summer. Sickness, death, slander, and other events that typically bring either joy or sorrow are all part of this natural cycle. What comes next always follows naturally from what came before. The world is not just a random series of events but a well-ordered and interconnected system. Remember the teachings of Heraclitus, who likened the transitions in the world to the transformations of elements. Earth becomes water, water becomes air, and so on. Consider also how reason governs all things, yet people often resist it, finding everyday occurrences strange. Avoid acting and speaking merely out of habit or tradition, but instead engage with the world consciously and thoughtfully. Imagine if a god were to tell you that you would die tomorrow or the day after. Unless you were utterly cowardly and base, you wouldn't see much difference between dying one day or the next. So, likewise, don't worry whether you'll die many years from now or just the next day. Reflect on how many doctors, astrologers, philosophers, commanders, kings, and whole cities have passed away. Consider also those you've known who have died. People come and go, just like everything else in the world. Remembering this, view worldly things as temporary and insignificant. After all, what is a human? Once just a handful of cells, soon to be either preserved remains or dust. Embrace the brevity of life and depart from it with contentment, like a ripe olive fallen from a tree without complaint. Be like a promontory in the sea, steadfast against the constant onslaught of waves, yet calm and undisturbed amidst the turmoil. Instead of lamenting over misfortunes, consider them opportunities for happiness. If something doesn't hinder you from being just, courageous, temperate, wise, truthful, or any other virtuous quality, is it truly a misfortune? Remember, whatever happens to you isn't inherently unfortunate. Facing it with grace and courage is where true happiness lies. A simple yet effective remedy for the fear of death is to reflect on the lives of those who lived greedily and covetously for many years. What more did they gain than those whose lives ended prematurely? In the end, they, too, faced death, whether it's Cadiciant, Fabius, Julianus Lepidus, or any other who, after burying many, was buried themselves. Life's span is short, and however brief, it's filled with troubles and discomforts, often spent in the company of ailing bodies. So, consider it all with indifference. When you look back, you'll see an endless expanse of time, and when you look forward, it's equally boundless. In this infinity, what difference does it make whether one lives for 3 days or 3 ages? Always choose the most straightforward path. And the most straightforward path is the one aligned with nature. Always strive to speak and act in accordance with what is most rational and virtuous. This resolve will liberate you from all manner of trouble, conflict, pretense, and showiness. Book 5. When you wake up in the morning feeling reluctant to rise, remind yourself, I am stirred up to engage in meaningful work. Was I not born for this purpose? Am I here to indulge in comfort and lounging in bed? Pleasure may seem enticing, but were you not born to be active and purposeful? Look around at nature, trees, plants, sparrows, ants, spiders, bees, all diligently fulfilling their roles and maintaining order in the universe. Should you not, as a human, fulfill your role too? Yes, rest is necessary, but you've exceeded your limit. neglecting action that could benefit you and others. Do you not love yourself? If you did, you'd honor your nature and its purpose. Others devote themselves to their trades, sacrificing food and rest. Do you value your nature less than they value their professions, wealth, or fame? Should actions benefiting society be less esteemed than personal pursuits? It's remarkably easy for a person to cast aside turbulent thoughts and find immediate peace and tranquility. Consider yourself capable and worthy of speaking or acting in accordance with nature. Don't let the fear of reproach or criticism deter you if it's right and honest. Don't undervalue yourself to the point of being discouraged. Others have their own rational faculties and inclinations, which you need not concern yourself with. Follow the path dictated by your own nature and the common good, they align. I'll continue living according to nature's dictates until my final breath. I'll exhale into the same air that sustained me, falling onto the same earth that provided sustenance for generations. This earth supports me, despite how some abuse or exploit it for various purposes. You may lack the eloquence others admire, but there are many virtues within your control. Cultivate sincerity, dignity, diligence, and a disdain for excess. Be content with little, show kindness, and avoid frivolous talk. Be magnanimous. Despite any perceived natural limitations, you could have shed habits like murmuring, flattery, and vanity long ago. Exercise patience with yourself, either overly lamenting nor delighting in your shortcomings. There are those who, after doing a good deed, expect repayment or recognition. Some consider the recipient indebted to them, even if they don't demand repayment outright. Then there are those who do good without even realizing it, like a vine bearing fruit or a horse finishing a race. They don't seek applause. They simply move on to the next task, just as the vine prepares for another season of growth. Be like them, performing good deeds without expecting anything in return. Some may argue that a rational person should understand their actions, but they miss the point. The true essence of sociability lies in selfless action, not in seeking recognition. Athenians prayed for rain not just for themselves, but for all. Our prayers should reflect this selflessness, encompassing everyone rather than focusing solely on individual desires. Just as we say a physician prescribes riding for one person, cold baths for another, or going barefoot for a third, we can similarly say that the universe has prescribed sickness, blindness, loss, or some other challenge for someone. When we speak of a prescription, we mean that something is appointed for a specific purpose, such as promoting health. Likewise, whatever happens to us is ordained as part of our fate, harmonizing with the larger scheme of things. Even those who may not fully understand this concept recognize it when they say, "This is his destiny." Just as we accept prescriptions from physicians for our physical health, let us accept the events ordained by fate for our overall well-being. Although these events may seem harsh or unpleasant, we should trust that they serve the greater good of the universe. Embrace whatever happens, knowing that it was meant for you and contributes to the harmony of the whole. Don't be discouraged or disheartened if you sometimes struggle to adhere strictly to all the right principles. When you falter, simply return to them. Accept that distractions and human frailties are inevitable, but always strive to align your life with the ideals of a philosopher. Don't approach philosophy as a duty or a burden, but as a source of comfort and ease, like a soothing balm for sore eyes or a healing poultice. Remember, philosophy demands only what your own nature demands. Would you desire anything that goes against your nature? Consider whether true magnanimity, liberty, simplicity, equanimity, and holiness are not the most natural and kind qualities. Prudence, too, is kind and admirable when you consider the peace of mind that comes from navigating life's challenges without stumbling. As for the things of the world, they are often temporary and base, belonging even to those who live immoral lives. Consider the dispositions of those around you, how difficult it can be to tolerate even the most pleasant individuals, let alone yourself. Amidst the uncertainty and impurity of life, it's challenging to find something worthy of honor or pursuit. These are indeed perplexing matters. Find solace in the anticipation of your natural end, and in the meantime, don't lament the delay. Be content in two truths: first, that nothing will befall you that is contrary to the nature of the universe, and second, that you have the power to refrain from acting against your own true self and inner spirit. No one can force you to act against yourself. Regularly ask yourself, what is my soul focused on right now? Whose essence am I embodying in this moment? Is it that of a child, a youth, a woman, a tyrant, or even that of a wild beast? You can discern the true nature of things by considering people's reactions. When virtues like prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude are praised as good, people are satisfied, for these virtues truly deserve the title. But when wealth, pleasure, or honor are celebrated as good, people crave more, recognizing that these are only popular opinions. Reflect further. Shouldn't those things that are mocked on stage as signs of excessive wealth, those possessions so abundant that their owners lack even a place to relieve themselves, be truly valued and esteemed? Everything I am made of is either form or matter. No decay can reduce either of these to nothingness, for I did not come into existence from nothing. Each part of me will, through change, become a part of the whole world, and eventually another part, and so on indefinitely. This constant transformation shaped me into who I am, as it did those who came before me and those before them, stretching infinitely back in time. While the age and order of the world may have certain limits and boundaries, we can speak in terms of eternal change and continuity. Reason and rational faculties find contentment in their own essence and actions. They derive their initial drive from within themselves, but their progress is directed towards their objective, which lies ahead of them and is achievable, whether it aligns with their initial intentions or not. This straightforward pursuit is reflected in the term Kappa Alpha Omicron Rho Theta Sigma Epsilon Iota, implying the directness of the path to achievement. A man should not claim ownership of anything that does not truly belong to him as a human being. The ultimate purposes and outcomes of actions are not inherent to human nature. Therefore, a person's ultimate goal, or _summum bonum cannot be found in the completion of intended actions alone. Similarly, if worldly possessions truly belong to man, then it would not be his place to condemn or oppose them. A person who can live without them would not be praiseworthy, nor would one who voluntarily deprives themselves of them be considered good. However, we observe the opposite. The more a person disengages from external wealth and grandeur, or the better they cope with the loss of such things, the higher they are esteemed. Your mind will eventually reflect the nature of your thoughts and regular reflections. The soul is influenced by the ideas and images it entertains, so immerse it thoroughly in these contemplations. For instance, wherever you find yourself, you have the power to live well and happily. Even at the court, you can find fulfillment and happiness. Moreover, everything is designed for a purpose, and naturally inclines towards it. The purpose of something indicates its end, and therein lies its good and benefit. Therefore, the proper good of a rational being is society, as it has been long established that we are made for social interaction. Can anyone doubt that what is naturally inferior is generally subordinated to what is better, and that the best things are made for each other? Furthermore, beings with souls are superior to those without, and among those with souls, rational beings are the best. It is madness to desire impossible things. It is also impossible for wicked people to avoid committing wrongdoing. Nothing occurs to anyone that is not natural to them in the normal course of events. Moreover, similar events happen to others as well. If someone, whether unaware or seeking commendation for their magnanimity, can remain patient and unaffected by these events, isn't it troubling that ignorance, or a desire for approval, can outweigh true wisdom? The events themselves do not touch the soul and have no direct access to it. They cannot affect or move it on their own. Only the soul itself can influence and motivate itself, based on the beliefs and opinions it holds. In one respect, humanity is closest to us, as we are obligated to do good to others and tolerate them. But if someone opposes our true actions, they are no more to me than something indifferent, like the sun, the wind, or a wild animal. Any of these might hinder one of my actions, but they cannot impede my mind and resolve, which always has a way to adapt and overcome obstacles. My mind can transform any hindrance into its objective, shifting its focus as needed in pursuit of its goals. What was once an obstacle becomes the main target of its efforts, and what was once in its way becomes the most accessible path forward. Honor the highest and most powerful force in the world, which utilizes and governs all things. Similarly, honor the highest and most powerful aspect of yourself, which is of the same kind and nature as the universal force we just mentioned. This aspect within you is what directs all other elements toward its own purpose and governs your life. If something doesn't harm the city as a whole, it can't harm any individual citizen. Keep this rule in mind whenever you feel wrong. If the entire city isn't affected, then neither am I. And if it's not a citywide issue, why should I take it as my personal grievance? Instead, think about where the person who's thought to have wronged you went wrong. Also, reflect on how quickly everything in the world changes and disappears from sight. Both substances and actions are in constant flux, and causes are subject to countless alterations. Almost nothing remains settled and constant. Consider the vastness of time past and future, where all things are resolved and annihilated. Are you not a fool to be proud or worried about things that won't matter in the long run? Remember, you're just a tiny part of the vast universe, with only a brief moment in the age of the world, and you only get a small share of all the fates and destinies. If someone wrongs me, it's their problem. They control their own actions and disposition. I, on the other hand, have what nature intended me to have and do what my own nature dictates. Don't let the most important part of your soul be swayed by bodily pain or pleasure. Keep it separate from these sensations, confined to its own realm. If these sensations do affect your mind and understanding, as they naturally will in a united body, don't resist them. However, don't attach any opinion of good or bad to these sensations. Just let them be as they are. Living with the gods means presenting to them a soul that is always content and satisfied with whatever life brings, and consistently acting in a way that pleases the inner spirit appointed by Jove as our overseer and guide. Don't get angry at someone because of their natural bodily functions. They can't help it. Their breath and body odor are what they are, and it's inevitable that they'll produce a certain smell. Yes, they have understanding, just like you do. Use your reason to kindly point out their fault. If they listen, you've helped them, and there's no need for anger. If you plan to live peacefully in a place free from disturbance, you can do the same here. If others won't allow it, then you can choose to leave the situation without feeling wrong. It's like saying, "There's smoke here, I'll go elsewhere." Until something forces you to leave, you'll remain free to do as you please, guided by the natural inclinations of a rational and sociable being. The rational essence governing the universe favors community and society. It arranges things, both good and bad, in such a way that they complement each other and form a harmonious whole. It subordinates and coordinates, distributing to each according to its worth and uniting those with superiority in mutual agreement. Reflect on how you've treated the gods, your parents, siblings, spouse, children, teachers, mentors, friends, household members, and servants so far. Have you harmed any of them in word or deed? Consider all you've endured and achieved. You've experienced many things and learned to endure, filling the chapters of your life story. How many truly good things have you recognized? How many pleasures and pains have you faced with indifference? How many eternal glories have you overlooked? How kindly and wisely have you treated unreasonable people? Why should ignorant souls trouble themselves with matters that are learned and wise? What is it that's learned and wise? It's the understanding of the beginning and the end, and the true knowledge of the rational essence that permeates all things, enduring through all ages unchanged, guiding the universe through cycles of time. Before long, you'll be reduced to ashes or a skeleton, perhaps remembered only by a name, or maybe not even that. Isn't that just an empty sound, a fading echo? The things we hold dear in life are ultimately vain, decayed, and insignificant. Even the most weighty matters, properly considered, are like puppies playfully nipping at each other, or like children, laughing one moment and crying the next. Virtues like faith, modesty, justice, and truth have long since departed from this world, ascending to heaven. So why remain here, when the tangible is so transient, the senses so unreliable, our souls but a fleeting vapor, and worldly acclaim mere vanity? What are you waiting for? Whether it's oblivion or transition, embrace it with a contented mind. But when that time comes, what will truly satisfy you? Surely nothing but honoring and praising the gods, doing good to others, bearing with them, refraining from harm, and remembering that external things, whether related to your body or your life, are neither yours nor within your control. You'll always succeed if you choose the right path, if you maintain true method in both your thoughts and actions. Two things are common to souls, whether divine or human. First, they cannot be hindered in their proper work by anything external, and second, their happiness lies in a disposition toward and practice of righteousness, with their desires directed accordingly. If this isn't my wrongdoing, or connected to any wrongdoing of mine, and it doesn't harm the public, why should I be concerned? How could the public be harmed? Don't let yourself be swayed by mere perception and popular opinion. Offer assistance to others to the best of your ability and as needed, even if they suffer losses in worldly matters, but don't believe they're truly harmed by it. That's not correct. Just like an old foster father in a play, who ceremoniously asks for his foster child's toy, knowing it's just a toy, view these matters the same way. What's the point of all the arguments and commotion in court? Have you forgotten what these things are? Yes, others may value and care deeply about them, but will you be foolish enough to do the same? I once was, that's enough. Let death come upon me whenever and wherever it may, I can still be content and happy. Because a truly happy person is someone who, during their lifetime, cultivates happiness within themselves, a happiness born of good intentions, good desires, and good deeds. Book 6. The substance that makes up the universe is inherently flexible and adaptable. The rational essence that governs it has no inclination toward evil. It contains no evil within itself and cannot perform evil deeds. Nothing can be harmed by it, and all things unfold according to its will and design. Whether you're half frozen or comfortably warm, whether you're just dozing or after a full night's sleep, whether you're criticized or praised, carry out your duties. Even in death, which is just another aspect of life, fulfill your responsibilities. Take a close look inward. Don't let the true nature or value of anything escape your understanding before you fully grasp it. All substances eventually undergo change, either by evaporating into vapor, if everything is ultimately reunited into one substance, or by dispersing. The rational essence that governs all things understands itself perfectly, along with its own disposition and actions, and the material it interacts with. For us, who do not possess such understanding, it's natural to wonder at many things whose reasons we cannot comprehend. The best form of retaliation is to refuse to stoop to their level. Find joy and comfort in continually engaging in kind and sociable actions, letting each good deed lead to another, all the while keeping God in your thoughts. The rational part of your mind has the power to guide and direct itself, shaping both its own perception and the events that occur according to its will. Everything in the universe is determined by the nature of the universe itself, not by any other force that may encircle, contain, disperse, or depend upon it. Either the universe is just a chaotic mess, a tangled web of things destined to be scattered and dispersed again, or it's a harmonious unity governed by providence. If it's the former, why should I desire to linger in this random chaos? Why bother with anything else if my ultimate fate is dispersal? And why should I concern myself with pleasing the gods when dispersion awaits me regardless? But if it's the latter, then my religious devotion isn't in vain. I'll remain calm, patient, and trust in the one who governs all. Whenever present difficulties trouble and vex you, return to yourself as soon as possible. Don't let yourself stay out of tune longer than necessary. By doing so, you'll be better prepared to handle similar situations in the future and maintain harmony. Make it a habit to quickly regain your composure and start anew. If you had both a stepmother and a biological mother living at the same time, you would honor and respect your stepmother. However, your natural mother would always be your main source of comfort and support. Treat the court and your philosophy in the same way. Turn to your philosophy frequently and find solace in it, knowing that it makes the other aspects of your life bearable for you and you more tolerable to others in those situations. It's incredibly beneficial for a person to view foods and other mouth-related items with a proper understanding and imagination. For example, this is the flesh of a fish, this is from a bird, and this is from a pig. And more broadly, This fine wine is just the juice of a regular grape. This luxurious purple robe is made from sheep's wool dyed with the blood of a shellfish. Similarly, sex is just the rubbing of ordinary flesh and the release of bodily fluids, according to Hippocrates. These vivid perceptions and insights into the true nature of things are invaluable. You should employ them throughout your life, especially when something seems highly esteemed. Your task is to strip away the facade, reveal their insignificance, and remove the serious context that gives them an air of importance. Outward appearances can deceive, and you're most susceptible to this when you think you're dealing with important matters. Consider what Crates has to say about Xenocrates himself. The things that common people admire are often very basic and natural, like stones, wood, figs, vines, and olives. Those who are more moderate might admire living creatures like flocks and herds. Those who are even more discerning might appreciate creatures capable of reason, especially if they're skilled in art or craft, or if they simply enjoy owning many slaves. But someone who honors the rational soul for its inherent sociability cares little for these external things. They prioritize preserving their own rationality and sociability, aligning themselves with the nature of God. Some things come into existence, while others pass away. Even what exists now is already beginning to decay. The world is constantly changing, just as time continually renews its age. In this ever-shifting flux of existence, why should anyone fix their attention on things that are fleeting? It's like trying to befriend an ordinary sparrow that flies away as soon as it's seen. We should view our lives no differently than the simple act of breathing in and out, which we do every day. Just as we exhale our breath into the air, our lives too are but a temporary exchange with the world, returning to where they began. It's not the basic functions of life, like breathing, feeding, or satisfying our physical desires, that should hold the utmost importance to us. Nor should we seek validation from the applause of others, which is no different from the noise of clattering tongues. So, what should we truly value? It's living in accordance with our own natural constitution and essence. Even the most ordinary professions aim for this harmony. A vine dresser ensures the vines are fit for their purpose, just as a horse trainer or a dog handler prepares animals for their roles. Education and expertise all lead toward this goal. If you're aligned with your true nature, you need not chase after other things. But if you find yourself coveting external possessions, you'll never find true freedom or contentment. Envy, jealousy, and suspicion will always haunt you, leading to inner turmoil and resentment towards the gods. However, if you honor and respect your own mind above all else, you'll find acceptance within yourself, become more agreeable to your friends, and harmonize with the divine will. The elements move around us, but the motion of virtue transcends these physical motions. It's something more divine and superior. Achieving success in the path of virtue requires navigating through a realm that's not easily understood. It's baffling, isn't it? They won't speak kindly of those who are right beside them, sharing their lives. Yet they desperately crave praise from those they've never met and never will, those who come after them. It's like being upset for not receiving praise from people who lived before you even existed. Don't ever think something is impossible for you if it's something that can be done by any human, even if it's difficult. Whatever you can conceive as possible and fitting for any person, consider it possible for yourself as well. Imagine you're in a wrestling match, and someone scratches you and breaks your head. You're hurt, but you don't cry out, get angry, or hold a grudge afterward. You don't suspect him of malice. Even as you try to defend yourself, it's not out of suspicion or hatred, but a gentle, friendly avoidance. Approach other aspects of life with the same mindset. There are many situations where we must treat them as we would an opponent in a wrestling match. We can avoid them without suspicion or animosity. If someone points out my mistakes and shows me where I've gone wrong in my thoughts or actions, I'll gladly correct myself. I seek the truth, knowing it can never harm anyone. But remaining in error or ignorance surely does. I'll do what's right according to my nature. As for everything else, whether it's insentient, irrational, or even rational but misled, I won't let it bother or distract me. I'll use insentient things freely and generously, as a rational being among the irrational. And with fellow humans, I'll strive to live harmoniously, recognizing our shared rationality. Whatever you're doing, remember to call upon the gods for guidance. And as for how long you'll live to do these things, let it be of no concern. Even 3 hours are enough. When Alexander the Great and the mule driver both passed away, they met the same fate. Either they returned to the original rational essences from which all things in the world originate, or they were scattered into atoms in a similar manner. Consider how many different things, whether they concern our bodies or our souls, happen within each of us in a single moment. Then you won't be surprised that many more things, or rather all things that occur, can exist and coexist at one time in the collective entity we call the world. If someone asked you how to spell Antoninus, wouldn't you focus your attention on it and calmly recite each letter? And if someone started arguing with you about it, would you argue back, or would you continue calmly until you had spelled out every letter? Similarly, remember that every task a person must do is like a sequence of letters or numbers. You must calmly proceed toward your goal without getting drawn into quarrels with those who want to argue and fight. Isn't it cruel to forbid people from pursuing what they believe aligns best with their nature and leads to their own good and benefit? Yet you deny them this freedom to some extent whenever you get angry with them for their mistakes. After all, they commit those mistakes because they believe it's for their own good. You may argue that you should teach them better and show them the right path, but don't be angry with them. Death is liberation from the tyranny of the senses, the domination of emotions, the fallacies of the mind, and the constraints of the body. If your body can endure the challenges of this life, it's a shame if your spirit falters first. Be wary, lest you transform from a philosopher into a mere courtier over time, influenced by the allure of power. Stay true to simplicity, goodness, sincerity, dignity, humility, justice, piety, kindness, compassion, strength, and resilience. Strive to remain the person that philosophy, if fully embraced, would have shaped and safeguarded. Honor the divine, serve humanity. This life is fleeting. Acts of kindness and a virtuous disposition are the true treasures of earthly existence. Model your actions after the disciple of Antoninus Pius. Remember his unwavering commitment to reason, his even-temperedness, his sanctity, his joyful demeanor, his humility, and his aversion to vanity. Recall his diligence in seeking understanding, his patience in facing unjust condemnation, his discernment in dealing with slander and falsehood. Reflect on his simplicity, endurance, and contentment with modest comforts. Emulate his willingness to endure hardship, his openness to differing opinions, and his reverence without superstition. Keep these virtues in mind, so that when your final hour approaches, you may face it with a clear conscience. Rouse your mind and dispel the illusions of your natural dreams and fantasies. When you awaken fully and realize that those dreams were mere illusions, approach worldly matters with the same detachment as you did those dreams upon waking from them. I am composed of body and mind. My body is indifferent to all things, as it lacks the capacity to discern differences among them. Likewise, my mind is indifferent to anything beyond its immediate sphere of operation. It concerns itself only with present tasks, not future or past ones. Just as a foot performs its function and a hand does its work, so long as a person acts according to their nature, their labor cannot be deemed unnatural or harmful. If happiness truly resided in pleasure, why would notorious criminals and tyrants also indulge in pleasure? Even those who practice manual trades remain steadfast in their professions. Shouldn't a person similarly honor and uphold the dictates of their own nature and reason, which they share with the divine, rather than neglecting them? Asia, Europe, are but fragments of the whole world, the vast sea a mere droplet, Mount Athos a speck, and all present time a fleeting moment in eternity. Petty things, easily altered or destroyed. All stem from a common origin, either by divine will or through natural consequence. Thus, even the darkest aspects of existence are but necessary counterparts to the beauty and goodness we cherish. Anyone who observes the present has seen everything that has ever been or ever will be, for all things share a common essence and likeness. Reflect often on the interconnectedness of all things in the world, and the relationships they have with one another. Everything is intertwined and interdependent, and this harmony ensures their cohesion. Each thing follows from another through physical motion, natural harmony, and fundamental unity. Adapt yourself to the circumstances and events that fate has assigned to you, and genuinely love those with whom you share your life. Like a well-made tool serving its purpose, your existence is as it should be, even if the Creator is unseen. Nature, which shapes and sustains all things, resides within them, deserving our respect. If we align our lives with nature's intentions, we can find contentment and fulfillment. If something lies beyond your control, whether to achieve or avoid, if you label it as good or bad, you'll inevitably blame the gods or resent those you suspect of influencing your outcomes. By fixating on external events as good or bad, we invite frustration and conflict. Instead, focus only on what lies within your control, and you'll have no reason to complain against the gods or harbor enmity toward others. We all contribute to a common purpose, some knowingly and rationally, others unknowingly. Even those who resist or obstruct still play a role in the grand scheme of things. Consider where you fit in this spectrum. Ultimately, the universe will utilize you for its purposes, ensuring that your actions align with its plans. Don't be like the absurd part of a comedy, but rather play your part in harmony with the whole. Does the sun try to do what the rain does? Or does Aesculapius, the son of the sun, interfere with the earth's duties? Each star has its own unique role, but they all work together toward a common purpose. If the gods have specifically planned events for me, I must trust their wisdom. It's inconceivable for a god to be unwise or malicious. But even if they haven't planned for me individually, they have a general plan for the universe, and I must accept whatever comes my way as part of that plan. And if they haven't planned at all, which would be religious to believe, then at least I have the freedom to plan for myself, in a way that aligns with my nature as a rational and sociable being. Whatever happens to anyone is ultimately for the greater good. It's enough to know that it's good for the whole in general, but if you pay attention, you'll see that what's good for one person is often good for others too. So, when we talk about what's expedient, we're usually referring to those things we consider neutral or indifferent, like health and wealth. Just as seeing the same old shows at the theater or other places becomes boring over time, so does encountering the same things throughout our lives. Everything, whether above or below, remains unchanged and follows the same patterns. When will it ever end? Keep in mind the deaths of people from all walks of life, professions, and nations, from Philistia to Phoebus to Origanian. Think about different generations, from the orators and philosophers like Heraclitus, Pythagoras, and Socrates to the heroes and captains of old, to the scientists and thinkers like Eudoxus, Hipparchus, and Archimedes. Remember even those who mocked the brevity of life, like Menippus. They're all long gone now. What did they lose by dying? And those who aren't even remembered, what difference does it make to them? The only thing that truly matters in this world is to engage with false and unjust people truthfully and compassionately. When you need comfort and encouragement, think about the various gifts and virtues of the people you interact with daily. Consider one person's diligence, another's humility, and yet another's generosity. Nothing can uplift you more than seeing the reflections of different virtues in the personalities of those around you, especially when they all come together at once. Keep these examples in mind always. Do you lament that you only weigh a certain number of pounds instead of 300? Then you have just as much reason to lament the limited number of years you have to live. Just as you accept the amount of substance allotted to you, so should you accept the span of time. Let us make every effort to persuade others, but if reason and justice dictate otherwise, proceed with your course of action even if they oppose it vehemently. However, if someone forcibly obstructs you, redirect your virtuous intent from one goal to another, from seeking justice to cultivating contented equanimity and cheerful patience. Turn what hinders you in one aspect into an opportunity to exercise another virtue. Remember that you initially desired with a proper reservation and exception. You didn't set your heart on the impossible. What then did you set it upon? That all your desires would always be tempered with this necessary reservation. And this you have, and can always achieve, whether the desired thing is within your power or not. And what more could I wish for if I can fulfill the purpose for which I was born and brought into the world, to govern all my desires with reason and discretion? The ambitious person believes that another's actions bring him happiness through praise and applause. The pleasure seeker finds joy in his own sensations, but the wise individual finds fulfillment in his own actions. You have the power to completely dismiss all notions and opinions regarding this matter, and by doing so, you can rid your soul of all grief and sorrow. The things themselves lack the inherent ability to impose any opinion on us. When someone speaks to you, concentrate so fully on listening to them that you do not entertain any other thoughts in the meantime. Strive to be wholly engaged with their words, regardless of who is speaking to you. What is not beneficial for the beehive cannot be beneficial for the bee. Do passengers complain if they are well transported, or patients if they are well treated? Their concerns are simple: that their ship captain safely brings them to shore, and that their physician aids in their recovery. How many of those who entered the world at the same time as I have already departed from it? To those with jaundice, honey tastes bitter. To those bitten by a mad dog, water seems terrifying. To children, a small toy ball appears grand. So why should I be angered? Do I believe that error and false beliefs have less power to lead people astray than excessive anger causing jaundice, or poison inducing madness? No one can prevent you from living according to your nature. Nothing can occur to you that is not required by the common good of nature. Consider the kind of people others seek to please, what they aim to gain, and the means by which they act. Remember how time swiftly conceals and buries all things, and how many it has already consigned to oblivion. Book 7. What is wickedness? It's what you've seen and known many times in the world. So whenever something happens that might otherwise trouble you, remember immediately that it's something you've seen and known before. Generally, above and below, you'll find the same things. The very same things that ancient stories, medieval tales, and recent accounts are filled with, the things towns and houses are full of. There's nothing new. All things that exist are both common and fleeting. What fear is there that your beliefs or philosophical conclusions should lose their power to make you live happily, as long as the thoughts and images on which they depend are kept fresh and alive? It's within your power, no matter what happens, to conceive what is right and true. If it is, then why am I troubled? Those things that are beyond my understanding don't matter at all, it's only what concerns me. Keep this in mind always, and you'll be fine. What most people would consider themselves most fortunate to have, and would prefer above all else if the gods were to grant it after their deaths, you can grant to yourself while you live: to experience life again. See the things of the world again, just as you've already seen them. For what else is it to live again? Public spectacles and grand ceremonies, staged performances, flocks and herds, conflicts and disputes, they're like a bone thrown to hungry dogs, a lure for greedy fish, the toil and burden of miserable ants, the scurrying of frightened mice. Amidst all these, remain steadfast, unaffected, and free from indignation. Understand that as a person's worth is determined by what they value, so too is everyone's worth more or less. Word by word, each must be conceived and understood on its own, and so with actions and purposes, each must be considered in its own right. Just as we must immediately discern the proper use and relation of each action, so too with words, we must be ready to grasp the true meaning and significance of each according to truth and nature, regardless of common usage. Do I have the reasoning and understanding necessary for this task? If I do, without seeking personal praise or public recognition, I'll use it as the tool I've been naturally given for the job at hand. If not, and if it's not solely my duty to undertake it, I'll either step aside and let someone more capable handle it, or I'll attempt it with the assistance of someone whose reasoning, combined with mine, can achieve something beneficial and timely for the common good. Whether I act alone or with others, the only aim must be that it benefits the public. Consider how many once highly praised individuals are now forgotten, even those who praised them have long passed away. So, don't be ashamed to seek help when needed. If a task is like scaling a wall and you can't reach the top alone due to some impediment, will you give up or approach it with less courage and enthusiasm because you can't do it alone? Don't let future events trouble you. If necessity demands they occur, you'll be equipped to handle them with the same reasoning that makes the present tolerable and acceptable to you. Everything is interconnected. with each part having a natural relationship with everything else in the world. There is one common order, one common God, substance, and law throughout. There is one common reason and truth shared by all rational beings, as there is only one perfection for creatures of the same kind and sharers of the same reason. Whatever is material quickly merges into the common substance of the whole, and whatever gives form or animates the material is soon absorbed into the common reason of the whole. The fame and memory of anything are soon swallowed by the collective age and duration of the whole. An action is natural and rational to a reasonable creature. Straightness is inherent, not imposed. Like several members united in one body, rational creatures are dispersed but prepared for a common purpose. You'll understand this better if you remind yourself often that you are a part of the body of rational beings. If you see yourself only as a part, and don't truly love humanity, your joy in being generous isn't yet based on a proper understanding of the nature of things. You're still doing it merely because it's convenient, not because doing good to others is inherently beneficial to yourself. Let external events unfold as they may, affecting those susceptible to external accidents. Let them complain if they wish. As for me, as long as I don't perceive what has happened as inherently evil, I remain unaffected, and I have the power not to perceive it as such. Regardless of what anyone does or says, you must remain true to goodness, not for anyone else's sake, but for the sake of your own nature. Just as gold, emeralds, or purple retain their essence regardless of external influences, so must you maintain your goodness. My solace and assurance lie in my intellect, which governs all aspects of my being and does not invite trouble or distress upon itself. It does not induce fear or desire. If someone else has the power to compel it to fear or grieve, they are free to use that power. But if the intellect itself does not incline towards such dispositions due to false beliefs or assumptions, there is no cause for concern. While the body may experience grief, it does not necessarily affect the mind. The mind, capable of experiencing fear and grief, can be shielded from them by avoiding certain opinions or persuasions. The intellect is self-sufficient and remains unaffected unless it troubles itself. What is happiness but a good spirit or daemon? Opinion, I urge you by the gods to depart, for I have no need of you. You came to me as you always have, as all men have been subject to you. I do not resent your arrival, but now that I understand your nature, leave as you came. Is anyone so foolish as to fear change, the very essence from which all things owe their existence? What could be more natural and familiar to the universe? Consider how you enjoy your daily hot baths. Would they even be possible without the wood being changed to heat them? How could you derive nourishment from the food you eat if it did not undergo change? Almost everything useful and beneficial requires change to occur. So why do you not realize that your own transition through death is just as natural and necessary for the universe's balance? Like a torrent flowing through the substance of the universe, all individual bodies pass, each contributing as joint collaborators with the universe itself, akin to the members of a single body. Think of the many figures like Chrysippus, Socrates, or Epictetus that time has long since consumed. Whether it's people or matters you contemplate, let this reminder keep your thoughts focused and your mind from becoming too attached to anything. Let your sole concern be to ensure that nothing you do goes against the proper constitution of man, either in the action itself, the manner, or the timing. The time will come when you will forget all things, and soon after, you yourself will be forgotten. While you exist, devote yourself to what is most proper and fitting for a human, to love even those who wrong you. Remember that they are your fellow beings, acting out of ignorance and against their will, and soon both you and they will cease to exist. But above all, remember that they have not harmed you, for their actions have not diminished your mind or understanding. The nature of the universe, like wax molded into various shapes, forms a horse, then reshapes into a tree, then into a human, and so on. Each form exists only briefly. If it is not grievous for the wax to be molded and shaped, why should it be more grievous for it to be reshaped or dissolved? A furious expression goes against nature and is often the face of those near death. But even if all anger and passion were completely extinguished in you, you must not stop there. Strive further to grasp through clear reasoning that all anger and passion go against reason. If you lose the sense of your innocence and the comfort of a clear conscience, living loses its purpose. All things you see now are fleeting. Nature, which governs all things, will soon bring change upon them, creating new forms from their substance so that the world remains fresh. Whenever someone wrongs another, consider what they thought to be good and evil at the time. Understanding this, you will pity them and have no reason to wonder or be angry. Either you still share their error and ignorance, in which case you must forgive them, or you no longer view the same things as good or evil, in which case you should be gentle to someone in error. Don't imagine future things as if they were present. Instead, focus on the present and consider how much you would miss what you value most if it were absent. But be careful not to become so attached to present things that their absence becomes a source of trouble. Center yourself within. Your rational mind, when guided by justice, finds contentment within itself, without needing anything else. Remove all opinions and restrain unreasonable desires and emotions. Focus on the present moment, examine what has happened, and consider the causes and effects. Find joy in simplicity and modesty, and remain indifferent to anything between virtue and vice. Above all, love humanity and obey God. Everything is governed by a certain order and arrangement. Whether it's the elements or just a few things, remember that there is a structure to all things. Regarding death, it leads to dispersion, the breaking down of atoms, annihilation, or a change in form. Pain that is intolerable is swiftly ended by death, while enduring pain becomes bearable over time. Meanwhile, the mind, which is paramount, can maintain its tranquility by disconnecting from the body. Let the suffering parts speak for themselves, if they can. As for praise and commendation, observe the state of mind and understanding of those who receive it, understanding what they pursue and what they avoid. Just as the sea constantly covers what was once visible with new layers of sand, so in life, old things are often replaced by new ones. A passage from Plato states that someone with true magnanimity, who contemplates all times and things, does not find mortal life to be of great consequence, and therefore does not view death as grievous. According to Antisthenes, it is noble to do well and be criticized. It is shameful that the mind allows the face to be shaped and dressed as it wishes without paying attention to its own development and appearance. Various poets and comedians express that directing anger towards external events is futile since they are not aware of it. Life is like ripe corn, harvested at different times. If one feels neglected by the gods, there is some rationale behind it. As long as one is just and fair, there is no need to lament or tremble. Plato's perspective prompts us to consider the true essence of life and death. He argues that a person of worth should not fear either, but rather focus on examining their own actions, whether just or unjust, virtuous or wicked. Regardless of one's chosen path or station in life, the priority should be to act in accordance with virtue and avoid committing shameful deeds. True generosity and happiness, Plato suggests, lie in living virtuously rather than prolonging life. He urges us to contemplate the cycles of nature and the transient nature of earthly life, as such reflections help purify our existence. Plato also invites us to observe the diverse facets of worldly affairs, from the mundane to the extraordinary, and recognize how seemingly contradictory elements contribute to the beauty and harmony of the universe. Reflecting on the historical shifts of empires and societies, we realize that future events will follow similar patterns. Whether one lives for 40 years or 10,000, the essence of human experience remains unchanged. Eventually, all things return to their origins, earthly elements to the earth, heavenly elements to the heavens. Attempts to prolong life through various means ultimately prove futile. We must accept the natural course of existence, enduring the winds of fate despite our efforts to divert them. He may have a stronger body and excel in wrestling, but does that make him more generous or modest than me? Does he face adversity with greater composure, or respond to his neighbor's offenses with more humility and kindness? Where actions align with the common reason shared by both gods and humans, there is no just cause for sorrow. When the outcome of a well-conducted action conforms to the proper nature of humanity, there is no reason to anticipate harm. Embrace with reverence whatever fate has ordained for you, interact justly with those around you, and scrutinize every notion that arises to ensure a true understanding of its nature. Instead of comparing yourself to others, focus on the path laid out by nature, for the universe and your own nature guide you forward. Each individual is ordained to pursue the common good and resist the temptations of the flesh. Reason holds mastery over the senses and appetites, as it was meant to command the body. Avoid hastiness and error, and direct your mind towards these aims without distraction to find fulfillment and happiness. Approach whatever remains of your life as a gracious surplus to a virtuous existence. Embrace and accept whatever fate has in store for you, for what could be more reasonable? When faced with adversity or calamity, recall the examples of others who have experienced the same. They grieved, they wondered, they complained, and now they are all gone. Will you be like them? Or will you, instead of being swayed by the fickleness of worldly concerns, focus solely on how to make the best use of such incidents? There is value to be found in them, and they can serve as material for you to work upon, as long as you ensure that every action you take aligns with your own standards of righteousness. Remember this well, adjusting your approach according to the nature of each situation. Look inward, for within lies the source of all that is good, a wellspring that never runs dry, provided you continue to delve deeper. Maintain a steady and composed posture, both in body and mind. Just as you can control your facial expressions to convey gravity and dignity, exert the same influence over your entire body. However, do so without any hint of affectation. The art of living in this world is akin to that of a wrestler, not a dancer. Both teach a person to prepare for whatever challenges may arise, ensuring they remain steadfast and unyielding. Continually reflect on the nature and current state of those whose approval you seek. By understanding their minds and desires, you will either resent those who act against their will nor crave their praise. Remember, no soul willingly forsakes the truth, and therefore they are not willingly devoid of justice, temperance, kindness, or anything of the sort. Keep this in mind to maintain a gentle and moderate attitude towards all. Whenever you experience pain, remind yourself that it's nothing to be ashamed of, nor does it diminish your intellect, which governs all. Pain cannot corrupt your essence or your ultimate goal, which is to promote the common good. Remember Epicurus's wisdom: most pains are neither intolerable nor eternal, as long as you stay within the bounds of reason and don't yield to mere opinion. Also, recognize that many things that unsettle you, like restless sleep or loss of appetite, though not labeled as pain, are essentially the same. So, when these discomforts arise, tell yourself, pain may have surprised me, but my courage remains unbroken. Be cautious not to regard even unnatural evil men in the same light as ordinary people commonly regard each other. How do we truly gauge Socrates' greatness and extraordinary character? His glorious death, subtle debates with sophists, or unwavering vigilance in the frost may not suffice. Nor does his reputed solemn demeanor in the streets settle the matter definitively. Instead, let's scrutinize the nature of his soul. Did he strive solely to treat others justly and honor the gods devoutly? Did he refuse to be perturbed by others' wickedness or drawn into wrongdoing by fear or friendship? Did he face life's trials without wonder or despair, accepting them as ordained by the divine? And crucially, did he maintain a separation between his mind and the body's senses and passions, demonstrating that his intellect could transcend bodily influences? Nature surely endowed him with the ability to pursue her own ends independently of bodily impulses. Remember, it's entirely possible for someone to possess profound virtues yet remain entirely unknown. Keep this in mind along with the understanding that true happiness is found in only a few things. Even if you doubt your ability to excel in logic or science, it doesn't hinder you from embodying qualities like generosity, modesty, charity, and obedience to God. With inner freedom and joy, you can navigate through life's challenges, even if others criticize you or adversity threatens your physical well-being. Your mind can maintain its peace and clarity, acknowledging the true nature of events, while utilizing present circumstances for your growth and service to others. Every situation, no matter how difficult, can be embraced as an opportunity to act in accordance with reason and benevolence, either for the glory of God or the benefit of humanity. Perfection in life is attained when you live each day as if it were your last, either consumed by excessive passion nor devoid of sensibility, and free from deceit. Consider the patience of the immortal gods, who endure countless sinners throughout the ages, providing for their needs, yet you, a mere mortal, find it intolerable to bear with others' faults, despite being a sinner yourself. It's absurd to tolerate vice in oneself, which can be restrained, while attempting to eradicate it in others, an impossible task. Anything that doesn't contribute to reason or charity is unworthy of your attention and effort. When you do good and benefit others, don't seek external recognition or expect reciprocity. No one grows tired of receiving benefits, and every action aligned with nature is inherently beneficial. Reflect on the fact that the universe deliberated upon its creation before its existence. Therefore, whatever occurs is either a result of that initial deliberation or is subject to the providence of the rational part of the world. Book 8. To guard against vanity, remind yourself that you cannot earn the commendation reserved for those who have consistently lived a philosopher's life. Both you and others know that you've veered off the path of perfection numerous times. It will be challenging to reclaim the title and respect of a philosopher, especially considering the contradiction with your current profession. Instead of fixating on fame and reputation, focus on living in alignment with your true nature and purpose. Reflect on past experiences to recognize that true happiness isn't found in logic puzzles, wealth, fame, or pleasure, but in fulfilling the inherent requirements of being human. Ensure your moral principles are sound, recognizing that true goodness lies in virtues like justice, temperance, courage, and generosity. Before taking any action, ask yourself how it aligns with your values and whether you'll regret it later. Remember that life is fleeting, and prioritize actions that contribute to the common good, guided by the same principles that govern the universe. Compare the accomplishments of figures like Alexander, Caius, and Pompeius to those of Diogenes, Heraclitus, and Socrates. The latter delved into the essence of existence, while the former were enslaved by their errors. Don't be troubled by the actions of others, for they will continue regardless of your reaction. Remember, all events, whether good or bad, unfold according to the natural order of the universe. Eventually, everything will fade into oblivion, just as the deeds of historical figures like Africanus and Augustus have been forgotten. Instead, focus on the matter at hand. Stay true to yourself, ensuring that your actions align with the principles of goodness and integrity. Speak your truth with kindness, humility, and sincerity. The universe is constantly in motion, transferring, transforming, and transporting matter from one place to another. There's no need to fear change, as everything follows a predictable pattern. All events are part of the ordinary course of life, governed by the principle of equality. Every living being finds contentment when it follows its natural course. A rational being achieves fulfillment by first rejecting falsehood and uncertainty. It then directs its actions towards the common good, either desiring what is beyond its control nor fleeing from its responsibilities. Finally, it accepts whatever fate the universe decrees, recognizing its interconnectedness with all living things. While individual elements may vary in value, the universe ensures an equitable distribution of resources, experiences, and outcomes. You may not have time to read, but you do have time to cultivate self-discipline. Instead of indulging in fleeting pleasures, strive to overcome them. Disregard the allure of fame and vanity, and learn to remain calm even in the face of ingratitude. Care for others' well-being, even when they seem unappreciative. Stop complaining about the challenges of life at court, whether in public or in private. Repentance is self-reflection on missed opportunities for goodness. True virtue lies in valuing what is good and beneficial. No virtuous person regrets missing out on carnal pleasures, as they hold no true value. Examine everything that comes your way. What is its essence? How is it meant to be used? What causes it to exist? What purpose does it serve in this world, and how long will it last? When you struggle to motivate yourself, remind yourself that acting for the common good aligns with your true nature as a human being. Sleeping is natural, but contributing to the well-being of others is even more so. Whenever a thought or idea crosses your mind, take a moment to analyze its true nature and characteristics. Engage in a reasoned conversation with yourself about it. When you first meet someone, Consider their beliefs about good and evil, pleasure and pain, honor and dishonor, life and death. Understand that people's actions are often aligned with their beliefs. Just as it's not surprising for a fig tree to bear figs, it's not surprising for individuals to act according to their beliefs. Physicians don't wonder why someone has a fever, and pilots don't wonder why the wind changes direction. Remember that it's just as admirable to change your mind when necessary and follow someone who can guide you as it is to discern what is right and just on your own. You're not expected to have all the answers. Seeking guidance and correction is a sign of wisdom. If you have the power to act, ask yourself if you would still do it. If not, who do you blame? Blaming either random chance or the gods is irrational. Instead, focus on correcting what you can and accept what you cannot change. Complaining serves no purpose if it doesn't lead to a solution. Everything that dies or falls, no matter where or how, remains part of the world's cycle of existence. Just as the elements of the world change without complaint, so should you accept change and dissolution without resistance. Everything in existence serves a purpose, from a horse to a vine to the sun itself. Even common sense rejects the idea that existence is merely for pleasure and entertainment. Nature has a purpose both in the beginning and end of all things. Think of life like tossing a ball or watching a bubble float. Does it matter if the ball moves up or down, or if the bubble pops? Similarly, consider the candle. Does its flame lasting longer make it better, or its eventual extinguishing make it worse? Apply this reasoning to matters of fame and death too. Consider the body in all its forms, from youthful vigor to old age and illness. As for fame, it's fleeting, confined to a small part of the world, and even there, praise is inconsistent. In the grand scheme, the earth itself is just a speck in the universe. Focus on the substance, principles, actions, and true essence of things. When adversity strikes, accept it as part of the divine plan and an opportunity for growth. Don't postpone becoming a better person until tomorrow when you can start today. Act with the intention of benefiting others. Accept challenges as part of the divine order, knowing that everything is interconnected. Judge the value of actions by their consequences. Consider activities like bathing, which, when stripped of glamour, are merely about cleansing the body's impurities. Reflect on the transience of life by observing how even the mighty are buried and forgotten. Remember that everything you're made of will eventually disperse, whether it's your body returning to the earth or your soul finding its place in the universe. The true fulfillment for a person lies in embracing what is distinctly human. This involves showing kindness to others of our kind, disregarding base desires, accurately discerning between valid and false notions, and contemplating the nature of the universe and our place within it. In this contemplation, we relate to three aspects: the apparent causes, the ultimate origin, God, and how our understanding can benefit those around us. If pain is considered evil, it cannot be attributed to the body since the body itself lacks sensation. Instead, any perceived pain is within the power of the soul to manage and not inherently evil. All judgments and reactions stem from within, where pain cannot intrude unless admitted through opinion. Rid yourself of idle thoughts and remind yourself continually, I have the power to keep my soul free from wickedness, lust, confusion, and distress. I can perceive things as they truly are and respond accordingly. Remember and exercise this innate power bestowed by nature. Maintain a demeanor of dignity and humility whether addressing the Senate or individuals. Yet you need not conform strictly to conventional speech when discussing topics of genuine virtue, civility, and the emptiness of worldly pursuits, topics that truth and reason dictate. Reflect on the inevitable fate of illustrious figures like Augustus and his entire court, including family, friends, and associates. Despite their grandeur in life, death treats them no differently than any other individual. Contemplate the extinction of entire lineages and families, recognizing the fleeting nature of human existence. Simplify your life by focusing on one action at a time. If you consistently do what is right to the best of your ability in each action, it's enough. No external force can prevent you from doing what is right. Even if there are obstacles, you can still act justly, moderately, and with reverence. Embrace any hindrance as an opportunity for a new action aligned with the purpose of your life. Accept material blessings without boasting when they come, so you can release them willingly when they depart. Imagine anyone who harbors resentment, violates social norms, or acts uncharitably as a severed limb detached from the body of humanity. But take comfort in the fact that unlike other severed parts, humans can reunite with the whole. God's benevolence allows us to rejoin the unity of humanity. Just as the universe incorporates opposing forces into its plans, so can we use obstacles to achieve our goals and happiness. Don't dwell on the general misery of human life. When faced with specific challenges, ask yourself what exactly makes the situation unbearable. You'll likely find it's not as daunting upon closer examination. Remember, only the present moment can cause you harm, and even then, it's fleeting. Practice patience for even the briefest discomfort. Are Panthea or Pergamus lingering by their masters' graves to this day? What folly! Even if they were, would their masters be aware? And if aware, would they be pleased? But weren't they destined to grow old and die like everyone else? And once they're gone, what happens to those who linger by their graves? Ultimately, it's all for naught but a fleeting existence. Be quick-witted in matters of judgment and sound discretion. In the human constitution, I see no virtue opposed to justice. But there is one that opposes pleasure and indulgence, self-control. If you can let go of preconceptions and judgments about what seems harmful or offensive, you'll find yourself as secure as can be. Who is that? Your reason. Even if you don't identify as reason itself, don't let your understanding be troubled by grief. Anything that hinders the senses is a detriment to the sensitive nature. Anything that obstructs the appetitive and proactive faculties is detrimental as well. Apply this to yourself. If pain or pleasure affects you, attend to your senses. If obstacles arise in your intentions, examine whether you propose them with proper reservations. Remember, nothing external can truly hinder the mind's workings. Once something is solid and unchanging, there's no need to fear it will ever alter. Why should I distress myself when I've never willingly caused grief to another? My joy lies in having a clear and sound understanding, not averse to anyone and accepting the realities of life. I find contentment in meekly observing and valuing everything for what it truly is. Live in the present moment, and don't chase after posthumous fame. Those who will come after us will be just like us, mortal and flawed. Why worry about what others will think of you when it won't matter to you? I am indifferent to where I am placed, for I carry within me a spirit content with its disposition and actions, aligned with its true nature. Is there anything worth causing my soul distress or making it worse off? Why should I be dejected or terrified by something of such little consequence? Nothing can happen to me that isn't part of being human. If it's external, it's my perception that causes grief, and I can change that. If it's internal, I can rectify my moral beliefs. If I'm prevented from doing what's right, I should choose action over grief. My mind, when collected and free from passion, is impregnable and my strongest defense. Remember, a mind free from passions is the strongest fortress. Those who fail to see this are unlearned, and those who see it but don't seek refuge in it are unhappy. Stick to the facts as they are presented to you without adding your own interpretations. If someone speaks ill of you, acknowledge the report but don't assume it's hurtful unless confirmed. Just as you see your child is sick, acknowledge the fact without assuming the worst. Keep your judgments aligned with reality, and avoid adding unnecessary assumptions. If something doesn't suit you, simply remove it from your life. If there are obstacles, find a way around them. Don't immediately question the purpose of these things in the world, as nature has its own way of recycling and repurposing. Nature has the remarkable ability to transform what seems useless or old into something new without needing to seek external resources. Avoid being careless or reckless in your actions, or causing trouble in your interactions. Stay focused and avoid wandering aimlessly in your thoughts. Don't constrict your soul or act aggressively, instead, find purposeful engagement. Even if others harm you physically or verbally, maintain your inner peace and integrity. Like a pure spring, remain untainted by external negativity. Strive to cultivate inner freedom, charity, simplicity, and humility through continuous effort and self-improvement. If you don't understand the world, you don't understand yourself. And if you don't know the purpose of the world, you can't understand its qualities or nature. Therefore, anyone who seeks the praise of others without understanding themselves is ignorant. Do you seek approval from someone who curses themselves? Do you aim to please someone who is never satisfied? It's not just about breathing the same air, it's about aligning your mind with the rational essence that pervades everything. This rational substance is everywhere, like air, waiting for us to attune ourselves to it. Evil in general doesn't harm the world, but individual acts of wickedness harm only the perpetrator. Each person's free will is indifferent to the free will of others. Another person's wrongdoing cannot harm me unless I allow it to through my own actions. The sunlight appears to spread out, but it's actually extended without being dispersed. Just as sunlight passes through obstacles without deviating, the mind's diffusion should be like that, extended but not scattered. Fear of death stems from fear of losing consciousness or experiencing a different reality. Instead, one should find comfort in the idea that death brings either no sensation at all or a transition to another form of existence. All people are interconnected, either educate them or tolerate them. The mind's movement is not linear like that of a dart. When cautious and circumspect, the mind can be said to move straight toward its goal, just as when it moves without caution. Seek to understand others' perspectives and make your own mind open and receptive to others' insights. Book 9. Anyone who acts unjustly is also impious. The universe has designed all rational beings to support and benefit each other, without causing harm. Therefore, anyone who goes against this principle commits impiety towards the fundamental deity of the universe. This deity, often referred to as truth, is the common parent of all things and is to be revered by all. Those who lie knowingly and willingly act unjustly, and thus impiously. Similarly, those who pursue pleasure while avoiding pain are also impious because they often blame the natural order for the distribution of pleasure and pain, which are perceived as unjust. Furthermore, those who fear pain or seek pleasure at any cost may resort to unjust actions, which is also considered impious. Living in accordance with nature means being indifferent to pleasures and pains, life and death, honor and dishonor, as nature herself is indifferent to them. Therefore, anyone who does not exhibit this indifference is impious. It would indeed be more ideal for a person to leave this world after living a life free from falsehood, hypocrisy, indulgence, and arrogance. However, if this is not possible, it is still comforting for a person to depart from this world with a weary disdain for such vices, rather than clinging to them and desiring a prolonged existence. Haven't you learned from experience to flee from plague? The corruption of the mind is a far greater plague than any physical ailment, affecting creatures as they are living beings and humans as they are rational beings. When facing death, one should not scornfully reject it but accept it as a natural part of life ordained by nature. Just as we anticipate the various stages of life, such as infancy, youth, aging, and all the natural processes that accompany them, so too should we expect the dissolution of our existence. A wise person does not approach death with violence or pride but patiently awaits it as a natural process, akin to awaiting the birth of a child from the womb. Alternatively, if you seek a more relatable approach to overcoming the fear of death, consider what you will leave behind and the characteristics you will no longer contend with. Though you should not harbor resentment towards these aspects, recognizing the relief of parting with them may ease your apprehension. Moreover, when the time comes for your departure, remember that you will not be leaving behind those who share your beliefs, which might otherwise tether you to this life. In the midst of differing opinions, you may even find yourself longing for release from the struggle of living among them. Those who sin harm themselves, the unjust make themselves worse. It is not only the one who commits a wrongful act but also the one who neglects to do what is right that is often unjust. If my perception of the present situation is accurate, my actions are charitable, and my disposition towards whatever comes from God is contentment, then that is sufficient. Clear your mind of fanciful thoughts, deliberate carefully, suppress base desires, and maintain your mental independence. Out of all the creatures lacking reason, there exists only one soul devoid of reason, and among those endowed with reason, there is only one rational soul, shared among them all. Just as there is only one earth and one light for us to see by, and one air for us to breathe, regardless of how many individuals exist who breathe or see. Anything that shares a common attribute naturally leans towards and desires to unite with others of its kind, being of the same essence. Earthly things naturally gravitate downwards towards the common ground. Liquids naturally seek to merge, and gases naturally tend to disperse. Without hindrance or some form of intervention, they naturally come together. Similarly, anything with a fiery nature not only tends upwards due to elemental fire but also eagerly seeks to join and ignite with other combustible materials. Therefore, anything that partakes in the common rational nature desires to unite with its own kind, even more so than with other elements. Since it excels all other things in its nature, it desires to be united with what is of its own kind. Even among irrational creatures, there were swiftly formed swarms, flocks, and offspring, driven by a rudimentary form of affection stemming from their basic soul-like essence. This desire for unity was stronger in them than in plants, stones, or trees. Among rational creatures, communities, friendships, families, and social gatherings emerged, alongside wars, negotiations, and truces. Even among celestial bodies like stars and planets, despite their vast distances, there was a mutual correspondence and unity. Such is the tendency of excellence to seek unity that it can even foster sympathy among distant entities. However, observe what has happened now. Rational creatures, alone among all creatures of their kind, have forgotten their natural affinity towards each other. Unlike other beings with similar natures, they lack a general inclination to come together. Despite their attempts to defy nature, they are inevitably thwarted. Nature prevails despite their efforts. You will acknowledge this if you observe closely. You are more likely to find something earthly where there is none than to find a person who can truly live alone without others. Every entity, man, God, the world, produces some form of fruit according to its nature. All things have their appointed time for bearing fruit. While the term fruit may typically refer to the produce of vines and similar plants, it applies more broadly, as we have mentioned. Reason yields both common fruit for the benefit of others and specific fruit for its own enjoyment. Reason has a generous nature. What it possesses, it shares with others, thereby multiplying itself. If you have the ability, instruct others for the better. If you do not, remember that kindness and forbearance were granted to you for the purpose of tolerating them patiently. Even the gods show kindness to such individuals and often assist them in matters such as health, wealth, and honor. They are truly benevolent and generous. Why can't you be the same? Or what prevents you? Do not labor as if you were destined to be miserable, or as if you sought pity or admiration. Instead, let your sole concern and desire be to always act according to the law of love and mutual respect, whether by acting or refraining from action. Today, I've emerged from all my troubles. In fact, I've expelled them entirely. It's important to recognize that whatever troubled you, it didn't exist externally for you to emerge from. It resided within your own thoughts and opinions. It must be expelled from within before you can truly and consistently find peace. All those things we experience are commonplace and fleeting, lasting only for a day, and often of lowly and vulgar nature. They were the same in the days of our predecessors as they are now, and no different. The things that affect us exist externally, unaware and unable to communicate about themselves. So, what passes judgment on them? Our understanding. Just as virtue and wickedness are not defined by emotions but by actions, the true good, or evil of a rational, compassionate person is found in their deeds, not their feelings. Like a stone thrown into the air, when it falls back down, it is neither harmed nor benefited by the descent. Examine the minds and understandings of those whom you fear will judge you, and see what kind of people they are and how they judge themselves. Everything in the world is in a state of constant change. You, too, are constantly changing, and even decaying in part, just like the entire world. If it's not your sin, why should it trouble you? Let the one who committed the sin deal with it. Every action and purpose has an end, just as every opinion eventually ceases to exist, akin to its death. Consider the stages of life: infancy, youth, young adulthood, old age. Each transition is a form of death, yet none of these changes should cause grief or suffering. Reflect on the alterations and endings you've experienced throughout your life so far. None of them should cause distress. Therefore, the culmination of your entire life, which is also a form of cessation and change, should not trouble you either. Whenever necessary, seek refuge swiftly, whether in your own understanding, in the understanding of the universe, or in the understanding of the person you're dealing with. To your own understanding, ensure that you never act unjustly. To the understanding of the universe, remember that you are just a part of it. Consider the state of ignorance, or knowledge of the person you're dealing with. And always remember, they are your fellow human. Just as you were made to contribute to the perfection of society, every action of yours should aim to contribute to a truly social life. Any action that does not contribute to the common good is disorderly and seditious, akin to someone who divides themselves from the unity of the people. The anger of children is like meaningless chatter, souls clinging to lifeless bodies to delay their inevitable fall. It's like a common funeral dirge. Analyze the quality of the cause that leads to an effect. Strip it down to its essence, separate from all material aspects. Then consider how long that cause, in its current state, can endure. Countless troubles and miseries have arisen because you either didn't find complete happiness in what you had or didn't recognize the happiness in operating according to your natural disposition. When someone falsely accuses you or treats you hatefully, try to understand their perspective. Realize that their opinions shouldn't trouble you. Still, maintain love for them, as they are inherently your allies. Even the gods are willing to assist them through dreams and oracles when they seek help. The ordinary affairs of the world cycle endlessly through ages, remaining largely the same. Either the universe deliberates on each specific event before it occurs, and you should respect its decisions, or it has already resolved all things in general. In either case, accept that everything happens by necessity, and if there is a God, all is well. If not, you can still use your own providence to navigate your life effectively. Before long, the earth will cover us all, and then it will undergo its own changes. This cycle will continue from one eternity to another, creating a perpetual eternity. When one contemplates the rapid succession of so many changes and alterations, can they help but disdain worldly matters? The cause of the universe is like a powerful current, sweeping everything along with it. Think about those self-proclaimed politicians, the supposed practical philosophers of the world. Despite their affected gravity and professed love for virtue, they are truly wretched and contemptible. Why bother striving for a Plato's commonwealth? Even if they make some progress, has anyone truly abandoned their false opinions? The true effect of philosophy is genuine simplicity and modesty, not ostentation and vainglory. Look from a high vantage point and observe the various activities below: flocks, sacrifices, and navigations of all kinds. Consider the lives of those who came before, those who will come after, and the present state of many nations. Fame, honor, and worldly possessions, all are fleeting. Accept whatever happens as God's will and act justly, focusing on doing good for others. Many of your troubles stem from mere opinions and perceptions, which you have the power to discard. Envision the entire world and the fleeting nature of every object within it. Reflect on the short lifespan of everything compared to the vastness of time. All that you see will soon perish, including yourself. Consider the minds and motivations of others. What drives their actions? When they speak ill of others, thinking they harm them, or praise them, thinking they benefit them, how full they are of conceit and opinion. Loss and corruption are merely changes that align with the nature of the universe. If everything has gone wrong from the beginning, and will continue to do so, then why hasn't any divine power rectified it? Or is the world condemned to perpetual misery? Reflect on the base and putrid nature of common matter, water, dust, bones, and other bodily substances, all subject to infection and corruption. Even prized materials like marble, gold, and silver are but products of the earth. Life itself is as fleeting as an exhalation of blood, destined to be transformed into something else. Will this constant complaining and murmuring never cease? What is it that troubles you? Is it something new? Is it truly significant when viewed in isolation? It's time to fulfill your duty to the gods with greater goodness and simplicity. Whether one sees these things for 100 years or just 3, it makes little difference. If someone has sinned, it's their problem, not mine. But perhaps they haven't. Either everything happens according to reason for the benefit of the whole, so why complain? Or if Epicurus is right and life is just a random mixture of atoms, and death is merely a dispersal, why worry? If you say to your rational mind, "You are dead, corruption has taken hold of you," does it also expel waste? Does it graze like an animal? No, it's immortal, unlike the body. Either the gods can't help us at all, or they can calm our minds. If they can, why not pray for inner peace rather than worldly desires? Pray not to fear or lust after what you can't control. Pray to endure patiently rather than seek to escape. Pray not to fear loss. Let all your prayers aim for tranquility, and see what happens. Epicurus, in sickness, focused on maintaining mental peace rather than obsessing over his ailment. Whether sick or in any other extremity, strive to maintain philosophical composure and avoid the influence of shallow discourse. In every profession, people tend to focus solely on what they're currently doing and the tools they're using. When someone's impudence offends you, ask yourself, is it possible for there to be no impudent people in the world? Of course not. Except that this person is just one of many. Remind yourself of the virtues nature provides to counter each vice. For example, against ingratitude, there's kindness and patience. Consider whether you could have foreseen their actions and adjust your expectations accordingly. If someone betrays you, reflect on whether you should have trusted them in the first place. Remember, when you help someone, you've fulfilled your duty, and expecting further reward is unnecessary. Just as eyes see and feet walk without needing recognition, doing good should be its own reward. Book 10. Oh, my inner self, I believe there will come a time when you will embrace simplicity, honesty, and transparency more fervently than the physical form that houses you. One day, you will understand the profound happiness found in love and detachment from worldly desires. You will reach a state of contentment where external circumstances hold no sway over your joy. You will no longer seek pleasure from transient sources or crave validation from the ever-changing world. Instead, you will find fulfillment in the present moment, recognizing it as a gift orchestrated by divine providence. Your confidence will extend beyond the present to embrace the future with certainty, trusting that all unfolds for the ultimate well-being of the universe. As a creature governed by nature, your foremost duty is to align with its dictates. Reflect on what your nature as a sentient being demands, and if it does not conflict with your rational faculties, pursue it. Strive to live in harmony with your natural inclinations while upholding the principles of reason and sociability. Let go of trivial concerns and focus on what truly matters. Accept that you are equipped to endure whatever life throws your way, whether you have the strength to bear it or not. If you can bear it, do so without resentment. If you cannot, let go without regret. Understand that your capacity to tolerate hardship is influenced by your perception of what is truly beneficial and virtuous. Approach those who wrong you with kindness and understanding, seeking to guide them toward a better path. If this proves futile, examine your own actions and intentions before placing blame elsewhere. Embrace the inevitability of change and decay, recognizing that all things are subject to the natural cycle of existence. Whether dissolution leads to renewal or destruction, trust in the inherent order of the universe. Acknowledge your interconnectedness with the cosmos and your kinship with all beings of similar nature. By recognizing your place within the grand tapestry of existence, you will find solace in the ebb and flow of life's fluctuations. Understand that corruption and alteration are inherent aspects of existence, neither to be feared nor resisted. Just as all things are born from the elements, so too do they return to them in due course. Embrace the cyclical nature of creation and dissolution, knowing that nothing is truly lost in the grand scheme of things. Aspire to embody the virtues of goodness, modesty, and truth in all your actions. Strive for clarity of thought, acceptance of fate, and transcendence of worldly concerns. Let these virtues guide you on your journey toward inner peace and fulfillment, and be prepared to relinquish anything that obstructs your path to spiritual growth. Your days are consumed by trivialities and distractions, both at home and abroad. Whether it's the petty concerns of daily life or the tumult of world events, you risk losing sight of what truly matters. Take heed, for if you don't, the profound truths you hold dear will fade from your consciousness. How many things do you pass by without truly understanding their significance? Instead of merely observing the world around you, integrate action and reflection seamlessly. Engage fully in the tasks at hand while allowing yourself to savor the inherent joy of contemplation. Strive for a deep understanding of every aspect of existence, from its essence to its purpose, its lifespan to its composition, its beneficiaries to its creators. Just as a spider revels in its catch, a hunter celebrates their prey, or a warrior boasts of their victories, so too do many take pride in their conquests, whether on the battlefield or in the pursuit of personal glory. But consider, are these achievements truly worthy of admiration, or are they merely pursuits of transient satisfaction? Dedicate yourself to understanding the interconnectedness of all things, the constant flux of creation and dissolution. Cultivate a mindset that embraces change and uncertainty, for it is through this understanding that true resilience is born. Reflect on the impermanence of life and the inevitability of death. Focus your efforts on living with integrity and aligning yourself with the natural order of the universe. Let go of concerns about others' opinions and focus instead on following the path of righteousness and divine will. Why indulge in suspicion and anxiety about the future when you can focus on the present moment? Trust in your ability to navigate life's challenges with wisdom and discernment. Seek guidance when needed, but ultimately trust in your own judgment and moral compass. Strive to embody a balanced demeanor, neither too serious nor too frivolous. Let reason be your guide in all matters, leading you to act with wisdom and integrity. Start each day with a clear mind, free from the influence of external pressures and desires. Ask yourself, does it truly matter who performs a just and righteous act, as long as it is done? Approach life with humility and acceptance, recognizing that both joy and suffering are part of the human experience. Embrace whatever comes your way with love and gratitude, knowing that it is all part of the divine plan. Live as if you were alone in the world, unaffected by the opinions and expectations of others. Let your actions speak for themselves, regardless of whether they are praised or criticized by society. Stop debating what it means to be a good person and start embodying those virtues in your daily life. Contemplate the fleeting nature of existence and the inevitability of change. Remember that everything in this world is transient, and focus on what truly matters in the grand scheme of things. Observe how people conduct themselves in all aspects of life, from their most mundane activities to their moments of triumph and despair. Remember that everyone is subject to the same fate, regardless of their status or achievements. Embrace what life sends your way, trusting that it is for the best. Surrender to the flow of the universe, knowing that everything happens according to divine will. The earth, as the poet says, often yearns for rain, just as the sky eagerly desires to embrace the earth. This mutual longing reflects the deep bond of affection between them. Similarly, the world holds a certain love for whatever may come to pass. My affections align with yours, O world. I desire what you desire, nothing more, nothing less. Indeed, it is true that the world loves to be, as commonly acknowledged when we speak of things desiring existence. You have three choices: continue your current way of life, retire voluntarily, or meet your end. Take comfort in knowing that one of these outcomes is inevitable. So be of good cheer. Remember that solitude and remote places, often esteemed and favored by philosophers, are fundamentally the same as bustling city streets. Whether on a mountaintop or in a crowded marketplace, observe and contemplate the nature of existence. Reflect on the core of your being and its relationship to the world around you. Just as a fugitive flees from their master, one who abandons the law becomes a fugitive. Likewise, anyone who succumbs to sorrow, anger, or fear regarding the course of events dictated by the universe's master is also a fugitive. Consider the miraculous process of creation, from the conception of life to the distribution of nourishment and vitality. Reflect not only on the visible effects but also on the invisible forces that govern them. Contemplate the cyclical nature of existence, recognizing that past and future events follow similar patterns. Envision the lives and actions of individuals from different periods, realizing that human experiences are often repetitive despite changing actors. Like a pig squealing at the sight of its impending fate, imagine anyone lamenting worldly miseries as similarly pitiable. Understand that only rational creatures have the capacity to submit willingly to fate, while absolute submission is a universal necessity. Before undertaking any task, consider whether it will matter after your death. Reflect on the impermanence of life and the insignificance of worldly pursuits in the face of mortality. When offended by someone's transgression, introspect and acknowledge your own similar faults. Recognize that their actions may stem from error and ignorance, and seek to alleviate their misconceptions rather than harbor resentment. When you encounter Satiro, think of Socraticus and Eutychus. When you see Euphrates, recall Eutychio and Sylvanus. When Alciphron appears, remember Tropiophorus. When Xenophon is mentioned, think of Crito or Severus. And when you gaze upon yourself, imagine yourself as one of the Caesars, or someone else whose status and profession align with yours. Then consider, where are they now? Nowhere or everywhere? This reflection will remind you that all worldly things are fleeting, like smoke dissipating into nothingness. Remember also that once changed, things can never return as they were. So, how long will you endure? And why isn't it enough to live virtuously and honorably for the time allotted to you? Consider the subject and course of life that you so eagerly wish to escape. These challenges are opportunities for your understanding to engage with the true nature of things. Be patient until you've made these obstacles familiar and natural to you, just as a strong stomach transforms everything it consumes into its own nature, or a blazing fire consumes all that is thrown into it. Let no one truthfully say of you that you are not genuinely simple, sincere, or good. It is within your power to embody these qualities. Resolve not to live if you cannot be true to yourself. Seek pleasure in aligning your actions with your human nature, finding contentment in the inherent ability of your mind to navigate obstacles and stay true to its course. Remember that nothing can harm your true nature unless it harms the principles of justice and equity that uphold society. Therefore, external hindrances cannot truly harm you or the society you belong to. Just as someone bitten by a mad dog fears almost everything they see, so too does one who has been influenced by true knowledge find significance in almost everything they encounter. Whether it's a simple observation like, "The winds blow upon the trees, and their leaves fall upon the ground. Then do the trees begin to bud again, and by the springtime they put forth new branches," or the actions and words of people praising or criticizing you, they are all reminders of life's transient nature. Your children, your admirers, your detractors, all are like leaves in the wind, coming and going. So why chase after worldly things or flee from them as if they were eternal? Remember, your time here is short, and soon someone else will mourn as you depart. A healthy eye sees everything, not just green things, just as a sound understanding is prepared for whatever may happen. But someone who says, "I wish my children would live long," or "I hope everyone praises me," is like a tooth seeking tender food. Even in death, there will be those who rejoice at your supposed misfortune. If you were virtuous, some may secretly rejoice at being rid of your guidance. Remember this when you die, and you'll find it easier to depart from a world where even your closest friends might secretly wish for your end. But continue to be kind and loving toward them, without clinging to life. As nature once joined you to them, now it parts you, and you should depart without reluctance. Whenever you see someone doing something, ask yourself, what is their goal in this action? Begin this practice with yourself, examining your own motives diligently. What drives a person's actions and emotions is not external things but their internal beliefs and opinions. Focus on your inner self, rather than being troubled by the physical body and its tools. They are merely instruments, useful only when guided by the inner cause within us. Book 11. The natural characteristics and privileges of a rational soul are remarkable. It can introspect, regulate itself, shape its own destiny, and reap the fruits of its actions. Unlike plants or animals, which produce their fruits for others, the soul reaps its own rewards. Furthermore, regardless of when or where its life ends, it can find fulfillment in any moment, unlike performers whose acts are incomplete if interrupted. The soul encompasses the world, grasping its fleeting nature and the eternal cycle of existence. It understands that future generations will see nothing new, just as past generations didn't. Loving one's neighbor, being true and modest, and valuing oneself above all are innate qualities of the soul, aligning with the principles of justice. Activities like singing, dancing, or engaging in sports lose their allure when dissected into their constituent parts. By analyzing each component, you realize their triviality, allowing you to transcend their appeal. Apply this perspective to all aspects of life. A soul prepared for departure from the body, whether through death or transition, experiences profound peace. This readiness stems not from stubborn resistance but from a calm, reasoned acceptance. Lead by example, quietly inspiring others to embrace the same perspective. Acts of charity bring personal fulfillment. Remember this always and consider how best to fulfill your role as a good person. Reflect on the nature of the universe and humanity to cultivate virtue. Tragedies serve to remind us of life's uncertainties and inevitabilities, preparing us to face adversity with stoicism. Ancient comedies critique personal flaws, promoting humility and self-awareness. Understand the purpose behind different forms of art and entertainment. Embrace the path of philosophy you're on. It's the most fitting for a true philosopher. Just as a branch cut from a tree is disconnected from the whole, division between individuals separates them from society. Hatred and aversion sever connections, disrupting the harmony of the community. Thankfully, the grace of God allows for reconciliation, though repeated divisions make restoration more difficult. Strive to foster positive relationships and affection with others, but remain firm in your own opinions. Those who oppose your righteous actions cannot sway your goodwill towards them. Maintain both your moral convictions and your kindness towards those who may try to hinder you, for yielding in either aspect reflects weakness and cowardice. Nature, being the basis of all art, cannot be inferior to it. Since art imitates nature, it follows that nature itself operates with unparalleled skill. Thus, justice stems from nature and forms the foundation of all virtues. Without justice, worldly attachments and moral weaknesses undermine the preservation of virtue. The pursuit of worldly desires is like chasing after stationary objects. Let your judgments remain calm, unaffected by the external commotion, and the frantic pursuit and avoidance will cease. The soul resembles a perfect sphere when it maintains inner balance, neither grasping nor recoiling from external influences. In this state, it illuminates the true essence of the universe and its own being. If someone holds you in contempt, examine the grounds for their disdain. Strive never to deserve contempt in your actions or words. Instead, be kind and loving to all, even those who hate you. Correct them gently and honestly, without resentment, for true freedom lies in remaining unaffected by others' actions. People may scorn each other while seeking approval and competing in worldly pursuits, diminishing their integrity and authenticity. Professing simplicity and honesty is meaningless if not backed by genuine behavior. True goodness and kindness cannot be concealed but radiate from within, evident in one's demeanor and actions. True happiness lies in maintaining equanimity towards indifferent matters. Recognize that external objects hold no inherent power over us. It is our perceptions and judgments that shape our experiences. Remember that life is fleeting, and strive for what aligns with your nature and brings genuine fulfillment. Whenever faced with a situation, reflect on its origins, composition, and eventual transformation. Consider the nature of change itself, and how it cannot harm the essence of a thing. Regarding the foolishness or malice of others, remind yourself first that we are interconnected for mutual benefit. Then, analyze their behavior, recognizing your role in guiding and influencing them. Remember the overarching order of the universe and the interplay of beings within it. Secondly, contemplate the motives behind people's actions, especially how their beliefs and pride shape their behavior. Understand that their wrongdoing may stem from ignorance or misguided convictions. If they act rightly, there is no cause for distress. If not, they likely act against their own better judgment. Thirdly, acknowledge your own imperfections and the common humanity you share with others. Realize that discerning the true nature of someone's actions requires careful consideration and understanding. Fourthly, when you feel aggrieved, remember the brevity of life and the insignificance of worldly matters. Recognize that it is not the actions themselves but your perceptions of them that trouble you. Fifthly, embrace meekness as an unconquerable virtue, capable of disarming even the most hostile individuals. Teach and correct with gentleness and patience, showing empathy and understanding. Sixthly, avoid both flattery and anger, as they are equally uncharitable and harmful. Choose instead the path of meekness and gentleness, which embodies true strength and humanity. Seventhly, understand that encountering wickedness in the world is inevitable, but refusing to tolerate personal transgressions is unjust and tyrannical. Accept the existence of evil while striving to maintain integrity and virtue in your own actions. There are 4 distinct tendencies of the mind and intellect that require careful observation and correction. When you identify them, address each accordingly, dismiss unnecessary imaginations, reject uncharitable thoughts, refuse to speak as a mere tool for others, and firmly rebuke any inclination that allows your higher self to be subjugated by base desires. Just as elements like air and fire, though naturally inclined upward, comply with the order of the universe by remaining within the mixed body, so too should your earthly and watery components, though naturally inclined downward, exhibit obedience and adaptability. Disobeying this natural order through actions like injustice, intemperance, or sorrow signifies a departure from your true essence. A consistent and unified life requires a steadfast commitment to a common and communal goal. By aligning all personal endeavors with this overarching purpose, your actions will remain harmonious and true to your character. Reflect on the tale of the country mouse and the city mouse, remembering the stark contrast in their experiences and the valuable lesson it imparts. Socrates likened the prevailing opinions of society to mere scarecrows, meant to intimidate and control the ignorant. The Spartans, known for their simplicity and austerity, preferred sitting anywhere at public gatherings rather than seeking special treatment. Socrates declined an invitation from Perdiccas, fearing that his inability to reciprocate the kindness would be the worst form of deprivation. The Ephesians recommended always keeping in mind the examples set by ancient heroes and role models. Pythagoreans, starting their day with a gaze at the heavens, sought inspiration from the celestial order and purity to guide their conduct. When Xanthippe, Socrates' wife, took his clothes and left him with only a skin to wear, he demonstrated resilience and indifference to external appearances. Just as one must learn to read and write before mastering those skills, so too must one be educated in the art of living before embodying wisdom and reason. Despite the unjust accusations that virtue may face, it remains steadfast and unwavering. Desiring children before they are granted is akin to yearning for figs in winter, when they are unavailable. Epictetus advised fathers to cherish each moment with their children, mindful of life's fleeting nature. Epictetus emphasized the importance of controlling one's will and judiciously assessing desires to avoid unnecessary longing. Socrates questioned why people quarrel over trivial matters when the true pursuit should be souls of sound reason and integrity. Book 12. Whatever you aspire to achieve in the future, you can start enjoying and possessing it now if you stop denying yourself happiness. Forget the past, entrust your future to divine providence, and focus all your current thoughts and intentions on holiness and righteousness. Embrace whatever comes your way as ordained by the universe, speaking truthfully and acting justly. Don't let the wickedness or opinions of others, or the desires of your flesh, hinder you. When your time comes to depart, leave everything behind and focus only on your mind and its divine aspect. Fear not the end of life but the failure to live according to nature, then you'll truly become a man worthy of your origin and at peace with the world around you. God sees beyond our physical form and external possessions, penetrating to the core of our being. If you can emulate this perspective, you'll shed the burdens that weigh you down. By disregarding external influences and focusing solely on your mind, you'll find peace and ease. Your body and life are merely transient, but your mind is truly yours. Separate yourself from external distractions, past and future concerns, and live in the present moment with integrity and acceptance. Free your mind from attachments and disturbances, living in harmony with your inner spirit. It's curious how we value others' opinions of us more than our own self-assessment, despite loving ourselves most. Imagine if we were forced to vocalize every thought instantly. We'd find it unbearable. Yet, we fear others' judgment more than our own thoughts. Why is it that good people, who forge strong connections with the divine through holy acts, aren't resurrected after death? If this were just and fitting, the universe would allow it. But since it doesn't, trust that there's a reason. You can question this because the gods are just and good. If they overlook this, it wasn't unjust or unreasonable, for their creation is guided by justice and reason. Push yourself to attempt even those tasks you initially feel hopeless about. Just like the left hand, often idle until needed, which can unexpectedly hold the bridle with great strength due to practice. Reflect regularly on what kind of person, both in soul and body, you should be when death arrives. Consider the brevity of life, the vastness of time, and the fragility of worldly possessions. See these things clearly, stripped of external appearances. Also, ponder the causes and purposes of all things, the nature of pain, pleasure, and death, and the true source of inner peace. Practice living like a versatile athlete, using both strength and agility, rather than a gladiator reliant on one weapon. Analyze worldly matters, breaking them down into their fundamental components: substance, essence, and purpose. How fortunate is humanity to have the power to act in ways approved by God and to accept whatever comes our way with contentment. In the natural course of events, neither gods nor humans can be blamed. The gods act without error, and humans err out of ignorance, not malice. It's absurd to be surprised by anything that occurs naturally in life. Either fate dictates events, or chaos reigns. If fate is unavoidable, don't resist. If it's changeable, strive to be worthy of divine assistance. If chaos rules, be glad you have reason to guide your life. When you suspect someone has sinned, consider whether it truly is a sin and whether they already regret it. Pity them rather than getting angry. Only do what's fitting, speak what's true, and maintain your freedom of choice. Whenever something confronts you, examine its true nature, its components, its purpose, and its lifespan. Realize there's something within you, beyond your passions and desires, that's divine. Consider your thoughts. Are they driven by fear, suspicion, or lust? Act with purpose and for the common good. Remember, everything is subjective and depends on the mind's interpretation. Without opinion, there's calm and stability, like a ship safely harbored in calm waters. No action, when it ends, can truly be considered as suffering any harm. Similarly, the person who performed that action cannot be said to suffer any evil because the action is complete. Likewise, our entire life, which consists of a series of actions, cannot be considered as suffering any harm simply because it has ended. Those who put an end to their series of actions cannot be said to have been negatively affected. The duration of life is determined by nature, sometimes by individual nature, such as when a person dies of old age, but ultimately by nature as a whole. As parts of nature change over time, the world remains fresh and new. Whatever is best for the whole is also best for the individual. Therefore, death cannot harm any individual because it is not shameful, nor is it contrary to the common good. Moreover, death is brought about by the order and arrangement of divine providence. Those whose will aligns with divine providence can be considered divinely inspired and guided. Keep 3 things in mind. First, ensure your actions are just and fair. Second, accept that external events occur either by chance or providence, and blaming either is unreasonable. Third, reflect on the impermanence of life, the composition of the body, and the vastness and mutability of the universe. Realize that everything is transient, and there's no reason for pride or arrogance. Let go of opinions, and you'll find peace. What's stopping you from letting go? When you're upset, remember that everything happens according to the nature of the universe, and only the person at fault should be concerned. Recognize the interconnectedness of all humanity and the divine origin of each person's mind. Remember that everything is temporary, and no one truly loses anything at death. Contemplate the fates of those who once experienced extreme emotions or circumstances, realizing that everything eventually turns to smoke and ashes. Reflect on examples of intense worldly pursuits and how futile they ultimately are. It's more in line with true philosophy to approach every situation with justice and moderation, rather than pridefully rejecting pride. When asked how you know the gods exist, respond that their presence is evident in various ways, just as you acknowledge your own soul's existence without seeing it. Through daily experiences of their power and providence, you know the gods exist and therefore worship them. True happiness in life lies in understanding the essence of things, acting justly, and speaking the truth wholeheartedly. What remains is to live your life in a series of good actions, uninterrupted, one after another. Just as the sunlight, though obstructed by various objects, is one, and the substance of the world, though manifested in countless forms, is one, so too is the common soul, though expressed in numerous individual essences. Similarly, the universal intellect, though seemingly divided, is one. While irrational beings lack mutual reference, every rational mind naturally seeks unity and connection with others of its kind. What do you desire? Long life? To indulge your senses and appetites? To experience growth and decline? To engage in conversation, thought, and reasoning? Reflect on whether any of these desires are truly worthy. If not, strive instead to follow God and reason. To mourn the loss of these things through death is contrary to both God and reason. Consider the fleeting nature of your existence within the vastness of eternity, the small portion of substance and soul allotted to you, and the insignificance of your existence in the grand scheme of the world. After reflecting on these truths, realize that nothing else matters except fulfilling your own nature and aligning yourself with the common nature. Focus on the present state of your understanding, for that is what truly matters. Everything else is beyond your control and therefore irrelevant, like dead things or mere smoke. To inspire contempt for death, consider that even those who equated pleasure with happiness and pain with misery often disregarded death. Can death be fearsome to someone who only desires what is seasonable according to nature? To someone indifferent to the duration of life or the constancy of worldly things? You've lived as long as required by the laws of the world city. So why should you grieve if nature, which brought you into this world, now sends you out? It's like being dismissed from a play after performing your part. Though some may argue the play isn't over, in matters of life, 3 acts suffice. The timing of your exit is up to the one who composed you and now orchestrates your dissolution. You have no say in the matter. Go forth, content, for the one dismissing you is satisfied.